Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. I create an angel civilization in Marvel. Chapter 51. Next, Tony knew that Alan could settle this alone. So after a little thought, he chose the same way to return to the expo. Because there are many army steel soldiers and naval steel soldiers at the fair. He has to go back and solve those problems. Seeing that Tony was leaving, the 24 steel soldiers who were chased by the whip immediately turned and chased them back. But Alan directly sees the time when they were distracted. Kang, Kang, continue to chop the 2 Air Force steel soldiers into firework twice. Sheet, the whip in the Hanmer industrial base yelled. Why are these angels so fast? Is this something the body can do? Bite the toothpick in your mouth. The whip immediately controlled the steel soldiers of the Air Force and divided them into 5 groups of 4 people in each group and immediately dispersed. He is neither stupid nor stupid. Whip knows. Since there is only one angel, it is divided into 5 pairs to go out and die at most 2 teams. The plan is so right. But he didn't even know how fast Angel's angel wings would fly behind the Dart computer. Besides, Angel Wings has also been upgraded by Hexy. When necessary, you can directly use the wormhole to pull yourself for an instant advance. So, when Alan saw the steel soldiers escape in 5 teams. Alan said with disdain. I think you can run a few. Face a defective 3-man team that is running away. Alan directly carried 3 long swords from the dark plane without hesitation and threw them out. Pouch, 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 boom boom boom, with the friction of 3 metals. The 3 steel soldiers in the most convenient direction from Alan exploded in an instant. Only a few seconds passed. These 5 teams became 4 teams at once. Sheet. The whip remotely looked at the 3 Thai steel soldiers who had dropped again and cursed. He really didn't expect this to happen. Angel is so amazing. And he had never known Angel before. Only when Hanmer came out with him did he mention a few words. But I didn't expect this angel to be able to chase him more than 20 steel soldiers and fight. What is the significance of these steel soldiers? But it's okay. The only requirement for Whiplash is revenge. He wants to kill everyone around Tony's friends and relatives, including Tony. Thought of this. The whip gritted his teeth. A total of 4 steel soldiers were directly transferred from each team and sent to Alan to destroy them in turn. This can delay time as much as possible. However, the 4 teams that fled in all directions just ran out not far away. Alan stopped in the air and his sword was erected, then his wings flicked. Accompanied by the boom. Alan did not destroy the steel soldier closest to her. She directly destroyed the steel soldier farthest away from her. The whip at the moment began to froze. Why is that? Take the initiative to delay time. But there is no need for him to continue thinking. Alan held the long sword firmly in her hand and squeezed it tightly. Then directly moved to find the straight line connecting the remaining 3 steel soldiers. Angel's wings. Wormhole pull. In an instant, an incredibly powerful force involved Alan and rushed in one direction instantly. Then in the remote control terminal of the whip, all 3 of his Air Force steel soldiers dropped all at once. There are no signs. Nothing was found. The signals of the 3 steel soldiers turned directly into red. That is, the indicator of disconnection. Sheet. Boom. The whip hammered the table angrily. What the hell is going on? He yelled angrily. He really didn't understand what happened in the end. At this time, Whiplash found in the surveillance that Natasha Romanoff and Happy were looking for themselves, and they were about to arrive. After some gritted teeth, he set all the steel soldiers to intelligently attack all Iron Man models. And all the armors reserved by Hanmer Industries were launched and flown to the expo site. Goal: Tony Stark. Then he turned and ran towards his exclusive lashing armor. Ivan Vanke believes that the final battle is about to begin. But look at Alan's side. With 3 brilliant flames falling into the city below. Alan glanced at the target, and now there are a total of 12 steel soldiers in 4 directions. And he can chase down 6 units by himself. So as long as the 2 batches on the far left and right are shot down and then go to the fair and use Tony as a bait, they can all be solved. What is the purpose of the whip? Isn't it Tony? As long as it's not like flying to Tony now. Then you can find the rest as long as you look for it. After planning, the wings behind Alan vibrated, and once again traversed a long track in the sky and chased after him. The following steel soldiers were all shot down in the city. So someone has found traces of Angel in the sky. But it is too high to see clearly. They instinctively thought that this was the original Angel who was solving these wicked villains. For an instant, regardless of reality or the internet, they have once again heated up. And at the moment Tony's side. After he hurried back. There are also Army steel soldiers and Navy steel soldiers waiting for him at the expo. But these 24 steel soldiers without flight ability were obviously not Tony's opponents. Playing with kites and changing injuries, Tony took care of the remaining steel soldiers in a short while. But just when I felt that the incident could end, the ongoing battle has just begun. JARVIS. Sir, I have to remind you that there are more than 30 Air Force steel soldiers flying towards here. Tony, thanks, a great gift. JARVIS, but there is good news. Angel has also chased and killed her all the way. She should have any purpose. Tony, Ness, with Tony's joy, roar. There was also the roar of a bunch of propellers outside the expo. Rumble. Tony looked up. More than 30 Air Force steel soldiers flew towards themselves. Although the current place is empty, it is surrounded by buildings and shops. And there are many people hiding in tall buildings and taking out their phones to take pictures of themselves. If you fight here, you will accidentally injure many people. Booming, accompanied by the Iron Soldier Regiment getting closer and closer. Tony shouted in the armor. JARVIS, find me an empty space. Shoo, boom boom boom. Tony hasn't finished speaking yet. A white light flashed across like a meteor. The Iron Soldier Regiment came from a distance and exploded 4 Air Force suits directly in the air. This is a look at the crowds who are shooting in the tall buildings. Screamed out one after another. Oh 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 woohoo. Angel, you don't need to look at it specially. The figure holding the sword and waving his wings in the distance is not Angel, who else can it be? This Angel alone, nothing else. Now, Aylin, who had just entered the battlefield, looked around to confirm the situation. Before coming, she had solved all the steel soldiers that could be solved. But the planned 2 teams of steel soldiers disappeared. It stands to reason, shouldn't the 6 Iron Soldiers come to Tony? At this time, Aylin noticed something was wrong. She opened her eyes of insight and looked around for a while. It was discovered that the 6 steel soldiers hadn't come to Tony. They went directly to Pepper. Aylin Hengkong's sword pointed. Tony coldly said, "You can go, I will not fight with creatures who don't cherish their lives. You don't deserve to fight with me either." Maybe the words are very hurtful. But it's not wrong at all. Who said Tony wouldn't help out here, but it really couldn't help Aylin slow. Because it is only a matter of time before Aylin resolves these goals. So how can you let Tony, who Angel ignores him, help this unnecessary favor? At this time, not waiting for Tony to reply, JARVIS reminded in the armor, "Sir, I must tell you in advance that there are 6 Air Force armors to look for Pepper." What? Tony couldn't help but yelled. He looked at Angel Aylin and felt relieved here. Tony yelled at Aylin again, as if swearing, "After the matter is over, I will go to the Angel building and kneel at the door." After speaking, he suddenly turned and flew towards Pepper's in the opposite direction. He couldn't put Pepper in danger. Therefore, Pepper is currently the highest priority. The picture returns to Aylin, watching Tony fly away with a look as if he was seeing a neurosis. Aylin couldn't understand how this person's brain circuit was formed. At this time, boom, boom, clang, because Aylin was floating in the air and motionless. 2 of the steel soldiers, with their main guns on their backs, fired 2 shots directly at Aylin. But Aylin, who opened the eyes of insight, first cut a cannonball with a sword. Then she stepped forward and kicked another shell with her high heels. The cannonball spinning in the air flew all the way to the side of the steel soldiers before exploding. This caused the Iron Soldier to blow up 2 of his own people. Hey, Aylin was successfully amused by the group of steel soldiers. It's really stupid. Angel is not without artificial intelligence. But Angel never uses artificial intelligence in combat. And it will not use artificial intelligence for research. Angel only uses artificial intelligence in services or production. So facing this kind of steel soldier, this happens to be the most disgusting existence in Angel. Even if they are not artificial intelligence now. Too lazy to continue dragging time. Aelin picked up the sword and stood it up in front of him, pointing at the group of steel soldiers. Then the wings moved. A brilliant spark will appear immediately in the sky. Woohoo! The night sky over New York today is exceptionally beautiful. The citizens hiding in the upper floors looked at the firework, which exploded in the sky every once in a while, happily roar. They knew that it was a reminder that the bad guy was annihilated. And the white and flexible meteor in the sky is like a play snail constantly shuttles among the steel soldiers. But the bullets fired by the steel soldiers in the counterattack sparked like firework canisters. Why do you say that? Because it's really useless except like a spark. It can only be bright, and cannot hit Aelin at all. Boom, boom, boom boom boom. Firework rose in the sky with the sound of explosions. Whenever a firework explodes, the crowd will roar with, woo. The accompanying rhythm seems to hold a grand performance like a concert. But it is a pity. There are only more than 30 steel soldiers. In other words, the citizens of New York haven't enjoyed roar more than 20 times. The performance was easily won by Alan. So now, there is only waiting for the whip. At the moment, the whip that had already handed over the steel soldiers to the smart trusteeship also flew to Aelin. Since so many steel soldiers are constantly being wiped out, then Tony must be right here. And he won't go anywhere. Looking at the sky where there are no steel soldiers around, Aelin floats in the air with 2 wings and swords like a goddess of war. And under her feet is the remains of more than 30 steel soldiers still burning. Angel. At this moment, the whip in the sky saw Aelin and immediately stopped and asked loudly, "Where is Tony?" "We have no hatred. We really have no hatred." Aelin spoke cold words, then pointed the sword at the whip. "But Angel does." "What?" The whip was completely stunned. "What does it mean that we don't have it but Angel has it?" But it is true that his thoughts are very low level, and he can't even think of going up to the level of civilization. "I really can't figure it out." Whipling directly shouted. "Then what do you want to do?" "My goal is only Tony Stark. My goal is only one." Aelin's blonde hair was slowly blown by the wind, "that is to complete the king's task." "What kind of mission is this for you?" The whip cursed frantically in his heart. "It can't be delayed any longer. Whip left, look right, look for a place to fight." It is impossible for him to fight Angel in the air. Look at the situation in the previous few hours. The sky is as free and flexible as Angel's home. So the sky battle is definitely looking for death. But when it falls on land, it will become a salted fish that Angel will kill. This will not work either. At this time, Whiplash turned his head to see the crowds crowded with the French windows in the nearby building. At the moment, they are using their mobile phones to take pictures and videos frantically. "Hey," the whip gave a slightly disgusting smile. He glanced at Aelin. Without a word, he immediately flew towards the building. "The sky cannot be beaten, and the underground is beaten violently, then I will fight in the building. This will not only benefit your own whip. At the same time, it will limit Angel's ability." Booming. Watching the lashing armor propellant fly in thick smoke, the people in this building finally realized that something was wrong. Ah ah ah. For an instant, people cried and screamed and ran around like headless flies. But what's the use? The whip flicked with a charged whip. After a thunderbolt, the mirror in front of him was all shattered. The whip flew in and stood still. He looked back and thought he would see Angel panicked. But what I did not expect is, Aelin stood far away indifferent. It's not that Aelin is not saved. It was that the self-righteous thought she looked at the whip was absolutely interesting. Before not knowing the opponent's strength, your self-righteousness will make the other person laugh. You think it's a cup. But actually, it's so funny that it can't be funny anymore. Do you think Angel, do I rely on a certain specialty and strong? Aelin slowly raised her red lips under the mask. She flew slowly to the building occupied by the whip without arrogance or rashness. In the eyes of others, she is an elf with moths fighting fire. But in the eyes of knowing people, this is an elegant act of playing prey. Wait until the leisurely fly into the building. When Aelin's high-heeled shoes stepped on the floor, her wings were also retracted behind her back. Note that instead of putting it away directly, you receive it behind your back. With a click, the visor opened with the whip. He looked at Angel jokingly and said, "It turns out that Angel is such an arrogant creature. Today, your arrogance will bring you death." Hey, Aelin seemed to have heard something funny. She looked at the crowd who had shrunk to the corner around her. At the moment, they are timid and only dare to look at the floor. There are also those who have the courage to come over and want to cheer for themselves. I also want to take the opportunity to slip quickly. But it doesn't matter what Aylin is, as long as she needs to let the world know what Angel is. Next, facing the scoffing look in the whip, Aylin smiled without anger. She pinched the hilt of the sword with her index finger and thumb and lifted it aside. Then under everyone's attention, Aylin's 2 fingers were loosened, and the long sword was directly transported to the dark plane by the micro-wormhole transport technology. Whiplash stared, knowing that Alan was laughing at herself. He shouted angrily, "Today I want everyone to know what Angel's internal organs look like." At the same time, he flicked his hands, carrying 2 energy-filled whips, and rushed towards Aylin. But look back at Aylin here. She rubbed her left wrist with her right hand in an unhurried manner to move around. "Let me tell you why Angel is the most perfect existence in the universe." Brush. The voice just fell. A whip full of blue energy drew towards Aylin. But the face under Aylin's mask did not change. On the contrary, she took a gentle step like a walk, just like that Luo Wa. Pia. The energy whip blue light drew beside Aylin's feet. "Lift your foot and step on it." As if the whip was like a spicy strip, Aylin just lifted his left foot and stepped on it directly. The face of the whip that opened the visor changed. "Why is such high energy useless at all? What technology are your high heels? What kind of technology? It just failed to cause harm to the enemy." But the whip closed his visor immediately. He yanked the whip in his right hand vigorously. But it was discovered that the whip stepped on by Aylin's left foot could not be taken out at all. What a power this must be. Can't think much about it. The whip immediately drew a whip with his right hand. Brush. This whip directly drew the air out of the wind. But next, what? The whip was shocked directly, and Aylin didn't even hide. She grabbed the whip directly. She actually grabbed the whip with her right hand, just like stepping on a spicy strip with her left foot. Doesn't wait for any reaction from the whip. Aylin shakes the whip in her hand. The whip was suddenly pulled forward by an irresistible force. Then Aylin raised his right leg. Hit. After the sound, a whole smog filled the floor of this building, cracked directly. And whip. He was stepped on the back of his head by Aylin directly into the concrete floor. On such a thick floor in this building, the head of the whip was buried directly in. Woo. For an instant, the crowd huddled in the corner immediately burst into joyous roars voice. For a time, only the roar of the citizens remained in the entire building. And the whip, his head was stepped on in the concrete floor and he couldn't raise his head. Just relying on the strength of his battle armor. How can it be? Aylin is the 2nd-generation Angel's body. What's more, Ivan Vanki's head is estimated to be fainted after being stepped on, and he can't even get it out with a little strength. Huan roar continued, but when one of them called out for judgment, the whole crowd began to shout again in unison, "Judgment! Trial! Trial!" The uniform sound of the trial echoed in the room. The sober whip that was yelled by this voice slowly recovered. He started struggling to get up. But it didn't work. Aylin's slender right leg stepped on top of his head like a Tarzan. No matter how hard the whip is used, he can't get rid of it. This is absolute power suppression. At the same time, this verifies that sentence. His advice and small skills in Aylin's eyesight are all things that can be told to the sisters in the future and then laugh together. Listen to the sound of judgment around. Aylin felt the whip under her feet wake up. The reason for waiting for him to wake up is to let the target be judged in a sober state. Aylin's right hand opened in the air. A wormhole opened and a long sword was carried out. With a twist of her wrist, the long sword with the tip of the sword pointed upwards. Aylin slowly moved the long sword over the heart behind the whip. At the same time, the palm of the left hand covers the hilt. Feeling that death is coming, the whip is struggling harder. But it was of no use other than making him more like a fool flutter now. Trial, 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 accompanied by the warm joy of roar around. At the moment, Aylin finally sternly and solemnly said, "You have done a lot of evil, provoking Angel, and your sin is unforgivable. Today, my task of the King of Carriers is to replace my king to end your life." Accompanied by the sound of Megatron, all directions sounded. Aylin pressed her hands down. The struggling body is pouting. After a sound, it stopped immediately. Luo Hua can start the trial on the forehead of the evil target. Then Aelin will be judged on the target's heart while suppressing it. This is the primary and secondary distinction. At the same time it represents a different right. Woo! The moment the whip stopped struggling, all the citizens present jumped out from the corner and happily roar. Some of them embraced excitedly. Angel! 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 The shouts kept coming. Put away the long sword. Aelin raised the high heels, stepped on the head of the whip armor, and then walked to the original broken French window without delay. She opened her wings, and under the gaze of the crowd, she waved her wings and disappeared. For these normal people, Angel doesn't need to pay attention to them. On the contrary, it is this sense of distance and gap that makes them believe in their hearts. In this way, they will always admire Angel in their hearts. At the same time, in the Angel building, Luo Hua was sipping the tea made by Hexie while feeling the energy of faith soaring in his body. While observing that Aelin came back, at this time, Luo Hua made a nasal sound in confusion. Hexie suddenly cast a curious look at the side. Elon flew halfway and suddenly stopped on top of a tall tower. At the moment above the tower, there is a reason why Aelin suddenly stopped in a high-speed flight. She raised her right hand, and then pinched the sleeve of her right hand with her left hand in a daze. She just found a burn mark on the sleeve of her right hand, probably the scorch mark of her thumb. Thinking about it this way, wasn't it hot when she grabbed the whip? Although Aelin's body is the second-generation Angel's body, and the quality of the clothes is also very good, and it won't get dusty. But when you encounter that high-energy whip, you will surely be burnt. And the most important problem is, this is the dress that Wang gave to me personally. Aelin pinched the location of the burnt mark and wanted to cry without tears. Why did I forget to change to other daily clothes? Why did I wear this one out? Although all the costumes are exactly the same. But this is the only one of her that Luo Hua personally gave to Aelin. No, there, the second. At the moment Aelin's mood fluctuated far more violently than in the long battle. She could even feel her heart beating violently. That is a manifestation of mood swings when distressed. Aelin clenched his fists. She suddenly wanted to turn around and fly back to the whip. Don't ask why, because the result may be very unfair. But her pace of turning around still came to a halt, and her wings did not wave. Oh, Aelin sighed. He stroked his chest to stabilize the beating heart. Then he slumped his shoulders and slapped his wings and sent it to the Angel building. She was so happy that she had completed Wang's task. When the time comes, Luo Hua will definitely praise herself. But when this happened, Aelin suddenly felt that the loss was too great. They are all too big to accept. Because the verbal praise can be repeated in the future. However, even if there are not many angels who can own the physical objects delivered by hand. Oh, at the thought of this Aelin sighed again, and then flew back on the way back in a daze. At the moment Luo Hua in the Angel building also watched Aelin's situation. To tell the truth, you can describe Luo Hua's mood now without crying or laughing. But he didn't need to show it on the surface. Then Luo Hua smiled at Hexie's curious eyes. You'll know later. For a while, Hexie became more curious. After a while, although it had been concealed, Aelin, who could still see the state of mind, walked down from the top of the building. And it can be seen. Angel's walking posture is actually very confident. But now Aelin put her right hand slightly behind her back. Because she was afraid that Luo Hua would blame her for not cherishing it after seeing the burn mark. Then this is really indisputable. At this time, Hexie also saw that Aelin was different. Aelin, what's the matter with you? Are you injured? Hexie noticed the situation and stood up and walked towards Aelin. If Aelin goes, this should be a perfectly completed task. But why is Aelin so depressed? Aelin walked to Luo Hua's face and lowered her head slightly. At this time, Hexie knew that it was not the injury. There should be something, so she stroked Aelin's shoulder, went to sit down on the sofa next to her, and waited for Aelin to take the initiative to speak. After hesitation for a long time, Aelin decided to take the initiative to speak out. But he raised his head to face Luo Hua's playful smile. She knew everything about her instantly, and the king knew it. Suddenly, Aelin felt a bit aggrieved, like seeing the parents' children. Wang, the clothes are torn. Talking, she raised her right hand. Then use his left hand to pinch the side of the burn mark and show it to Luo Hua. It's like you fell through a wound when you were a child, and you were anxious to show your father to get comfort. Puff, seeing Luo Hua's playful eyes, and then adding Aelin's aggrieved tone. Hexie finally couldn't help but laugh. It turned out to be such a thing. Fortunately, she has been worried for so long. It scared me to death. Hexie picked up an apple from the table and smashed it at Aelin. Aelin caught it and put it on the table. But it's really broken, all of which have big thumbs. Let's not talk about the big thumb. Alan couldn't stand it even if it was a scorch mark. Previously, she went to experience the performance of the second-generation angel's body and dark computer. So I just forgot that she was still wearing the clothes Luo Hua gave her. Luo Hua stroked his forehead with one hand. Okay, for your outstanding job accomplishment this time, I will give you another set. Really? Aelin, who was still complaining to Hexie just now, turned her head and became happy. She looked favorably at Luo Hua and immediately agreed, "Thank you, King." Luo Hua waved his hand and took out the clothes that angels usually wear from the dark plane. Then he held it with one hand, meaning Aelin held it. Aelin immediately walked up in 2 steps and took it seriously with both hands. Suddenly her happy eyes narrowed. There are many dark planes of this kind of clothes Luo Hua. All are created by the system. In the future, every angel is born, he will definitely prepare clothes hemp for others. But I didn't expect that every angel would actually treat this first piece of clothing as a baby. Wait until Aelin is almost happy. Uran, how did the second-generation angel's body experience the dark computer? Hear Luo Hua's inquiry. Aelin immediately put the clothes in her hands into the dark plane, stood up and reported to Luo Hua in full face. It's very powerful. When I run the microwormhole transportation technology, the transportation process is not jerky. When I use the Eye of Insight to collect information and fight, the speed of processing data was hundreds of times faster than before. Luo Hua nodded. We will pass all the battle data to Hexie as a backup for later reference. Yes, Aelin nodded, and then still stood there. Luo Hua waved his hand. It's okay, let's go happy with your new clothes. Yes, a tone that clearly felt happier than before came out. Aelin happily saluted Luo Hua and trotted aside to look at her new clothes. Then, not long after the dispatch from Aelin, Luo Hua can feel that the energy of faith is growing. Then more and more fierce. Until now, Luo Hua can deeply realize that the energy of faith is increasing greatly than that of the last Iron Overlord incident. So now there is a question before Luo Hua. That is, the full set of technology research and development of Sky City has not yet been completed. And even if the research and development are completed, the faith energy generated by this event is not enough. Do you want to create the remaining 2 Angel 3 Kings? This choice echoed in Luo Hua's mind. If you create Liangbing and Kesha, there is no doubt that the research and development of Sky City will develop rapidly. But the next problem is that there is no belief in energy to create a city in the sky. Choose one, the technology is not well developed, and the energy for good research and development is not enough. Choose 2, the technology will be developed soon, but the remaining energy will not be enough. Thought of this, suddenly an idea came to Luo Hua's mind. Too late to ask Hexie. He directly opened Hexie's database and checked. Project. Sky City. Basic Module. Power Module. Production Module 50%. Attack Module not started. Defense Module not started. ... In addition to the Basic Module and Power Module have been completed. Only the Production Module has just started. But this is not to say that Hexie is too slow, but that Hexie is already very fast. But, see that the 2 most important modules have been completed. Luo Hua knew that his idea could be realized. That is, create a city in the sky ahead of time. The idea of creating a city in the sky in advance is not fantastic. So how to create it in advance? The answer is modules. As I said before, in order to allow multiple angels to work together on a project. Therefore, angels' R&D division of labor is very independent. But it was for this reason that Luo Hua suddenly thought of it. The Sky City is not in place first. And first create the basics. Isn't it enough to slowly develop and supplement it? Definitely okay. It's just that the function of the Sky City created in advance is not very comprehensive. But don't dark computers also come from this way? Hexy, now that the basic modules of our Sky City have been built. So now I decided to build a Sky City in advance with incomplete functions but intact foundations. When Yan Hexy raised his head from the study. It can be true. Hexy nodded. If it's just basic needs, it's totally fine. Anyway, the bat can slowly build hemp. That being the case, Luo Hua decided, create a city in the sky ahead of time. And time, it's set in 3 days. At that time, the huge amount of faith energy that had been fermented from today's event was enough to create a city in the sky. Next, in an abandoned factory 2 days later, Tony sat at a 2-person table with a good expression and turned the pen he was holding on the table. At the moment there are 2 reports on the table. One is from Avengers, one is about himself. Obviously, Tony was more interested in that Avengers report. Because he thinks his report must be very good. So he picked up the superhero report and wanted to open it. The rough black hands covered the report. You can't read this report yet, I think you need to read this first. At the moment it was Fury who spoke. Tony looked at a report of himself inside and out. After he opened it, the content inside is basically the same as the original plot. Tony glanced at superhero's report. So, unless I promise to join you, will you let me see that report? Yes, Fury nodded. Tony held his head up for a while, then suddenly asked, is Angel in there? Fury. Hearing that, Fury looked at Tony with mentally retarded eyes. It's meow. Angel wants to join the superhero team, I want you. Angel can hit 10 by himself, no, 100 for you. How could it be possible to invite Angel with the strength of S.H.I.E.L.D.? They have very few opportunities for ordinary meetings. Well, I know you can't invite Angel. Seeing Fury's eyes, Tony knew that there was definitely no Angel. Although he had already guessed that there was definitely no Angel. Then Tony thought about it. As long as you ask Senator Stern to wear a medal for me, then I will join your superhero team. Definitely yes. Faced with this question, Fury definitely can help him at a cost. Senator Stern was the one who wanted Tony to surrender the armor. He is also a member of Hydra. After the two shook hands, Fury seemed to remember something suddenly and looked at Tony curiously and asked, did you have a conversation after meeting Angel that day? Did you collect any available information? No, Tony said bluntly. To be honest, Angel doesn't care about me at all. I have no value in their eyesight. So there was not much conversation between us that day, nothing more than. It's over. Speaking of this, Tony himself seemed to think of something. He paused suddenly, and the corners of his mouth began to twitch. Fury looked at Tony with a sudden inexplicable expression. What's the matter with you? Sheet. Tony let out a sudden regret. He quickly ran out of this abandoned warehouse. Then quickly took the sports car home. Fury looked at Tony, who was suddenly excited, and immediately used a headset to notify the agent to follow him. Bittern thought that Tony had suddenly thought of something important. But what the stewed eggs said is true. This is extremely important to Tony. After 1 hour, a red and yellow armor rushed all the way to the Angel building. Jarvis. Sir, I thought that what you said that day was just a joke. What's a joke? Tony immediately retorted. Is Tony Stark that kind of person? This time, because I was scared of being chopped off by Alan last time. So this time Tony stopped far away at the only road entrance of Angel building. Not only that, at the moment, he also tied a wooden stick with a rope behind his back. Walking on this long road on foot, Tony slowly approached the towering building in front of him. Come to the lobby of the building. Tony looked at the empty space around him and let out a sigh of relief. Fortunately, no one, shame is just thrown at Angel. The problem is not big. Then he took the stick out from behind and put it on the ground. Then he knelt on the ground without saying a word, with a bang. He knew that Angel had discovered himself a long time ago. So just take the action and wait for others' instructions. I led the enemy to Angel twice. He himself would scold his mother for this trick to cause trouble. Not to mention Angel, although this is what people want to do. But active and passive are two different things. So, at this moment, Tony is waiting for Angel to punish himself. In the Angel building at the moment, Luo Hua had already noticed Tony's arrival. It's just that he walked from Jung Protégé in a proper manner. so I didn't let Alan kill him. However, Alan still stood beside Luo Hua and asked, do you want to drive away? Luo Hua stretched out his index finger and shook it. This is such an interesting thing, so I don't want to play it first. At the moment downstairs, Tony looked up at the quiet building. Isn't Angel not wanting to talk to me? Jarvis. Sir, it's up to now. Unless Angel lets you go, it will be wasted. Tony thought for a while. Yes. He simply picked up the wooden stick on the ground and shouted at the mansion, I will do it myself first. Speaking, he banged twice on the head of his battle armor. Jarvis. Sir, are you kidding? The sticks didn't break. You are now wearing armor. This battle armor is worth 1 billion meter. Although knocking on the wood will not even scratch. But Tony was still used to not playing hard. After the reminder of Jarvis, Tony slammed hard and clicked. The stick broke in two at the sound. But just when Tony thought it was all right. Submit. Scream. A long sword was inserted directly in front of Tony's legs. At this moment, Tony moved back in shock. He looked at the sword blindly and didn't know what to do. This is Jarvis reminding. Sir, Angel may tell you to use this sword to chop yourself. Tony. It's really hard to cut. But after thinking about it, Tony suddenly raised his head and asked, is it okay to shoot with the sword? The armor is quite expensive. Submit. Stabbed. A falling sword sounded again. A dazzling spark was directly inserted into Tony's crotch. He quickly looked at his second brother. A very deep cut has been cut out of the crotch of Mark 6 of battle armor. And the chilly wind is still pouring in. In addition, the direction of the blade is towards him. Tony doesn't have to think about it. Angel is asking himself to cut himself with a sword. It meows, is this Angel deceiving too much? Cut and cut. Isn't it just that the helmet of the armor is damaged? This is only worth a few dollars. When, ding, pit, kang, suddenly, one after another sound of iron strikes sounded from the huge square at the bottom of the Angel building. After a while, Tony, who had already hacked his helmet out of shape, chose to take it off. This helmet has been chopped down by Tony himself, leaving only the function to talk to Jarvis. And it looks like a dog chews on it. It feels almost cut. Tony looked up at the strong noon sun and asked, is it all right? Inside the top floor, Luo Hua waved his hand and told Alan to go down and take a word, let him chop the armor down and go back. All of a sudden, Hexy and Alan both laughed. The bodies of these mortals, even if they get their swords, will take a lot of time. Alan suffocated a smile, put on a mask and flew down. Then hovered in the middle of Tony's good son and said coldly, the king said, let you chop up all the armor before you go back. Tony squatted to death and a wave of blood rushed to his forehead and said, It's done right away. After the order was completed, Alan flew back. At the moment, Jarvis reminded, Sir, if you cut at the previous speed, you need to cut until tomorrow morning. Tony, time has come to this night. When everyone should rest. There was a spark from time to time in the square at the bottom of the Angel building, accompanied by a crisp sound. Yes, that is caused by collisions between metals. The agent who observed the day collected the information and sent it to Nick Fury. The braised egg was blinded with Hill on the spot. What is this for? Blinded, but why is there no Phil Coulson in at the moment's Tri-Wing building? That's because he went to Mexico. At the moment, Mexico is still noon. People exposed to the poisonous sun are irritable, not to mention that these agents are still wearing black suits. Phil Coulson looked at the hammer surrounded by a group of researchers. Then he raised his head to Hawkeye above and said, have you noticed anything abnormal with this hammer? No, Hawkeye lay on the railing, but if you find Angel, you should be able to solve this problem. Can't find it. Phil Coulson looked at the hammer silently. Let's please don't move Angel, except at the price of this hammer. But there is no value in moving Angel like that. Director Fury gave me the task to understand this hammer. Then there is no way. Hawkeye stared at this Mjolnir. He always felt that this thing was unusual. My instinct tells me that technology can't solve this thing. Why? Phil Coulson was really puzzled this time. Look, Hawkeye gave an example. Angel has gone down the earth, and the hammer fell from the sky. We can't pick it up yet. It feels like something that has nothing to do with science. Phil Coulson. This is your intuition, the explanation is so sparse. At the same time, Thor, who had just been knocked out, was taken by Jane and his party into a restaurant for dinner. But as soon as he entered the door, he stared at a newspaper in a daze. Then Thor reacted violently. He immediately grabbed the clothes of a person next to him, pointed to Luo Hua's profile in the newspaper, and exclaimed with excitement. "Where is Angel now?" Thor. Jane and his party were immediately startled when they saw Thor. They thought Thor was going to hit someone, so hurriedly stepped forward and pulled Thor away. "You don't understand what I want to say. Let go of me." Thor struggled to throw them away. But then Jane said a word to completely calm Thor down. "We are willing to listen to you. Let's find a quiet place to speak, and then I will tell you all about Angel." Thor calmed down when he heard these words. He looked at the three Jane and nodded. Out of the restaurant, 4 people came to Jane's studio. "Wait until everyone is seated." Thor began to say, "He is the king of Angel, and he talked about state affairs with my father back then. My father is Odin, but he demoted me here." Hearing Thor's words, Jane's assistant looked at Jane and pointed to her head. "It means, he has no problem with his brain." Thor continued, "As long as I find Angel, he will be able to send me back to Asgard, and I will return the resources to him at that time. My father must have understood me wrong. I want to help Asgard. I want Asgard to be in a safer position." Looking at the excited words between Thor's voice, the more they watched, the more they felt that Thor had a problem with his brain. Then Thor finished. He looked at a group of people who hadn't listened carefully and suppressed his anger and asked, "Can you tell me about Angel now? I'm going to find Angel. Time is urgent." "Definitely," said Angel, Jane's assistant. With a big wave of her hand, she explained to Thor, "Angel first appeared on the tallest tower in Dubai, when he. Then on the direct avenue of Manhattan, New York, he judged the Iron Overlord under the watchful eyes of thousands of people. The next thing is like another female angel. She is also great, and she talks about the king's mission, the king's instructions, and what the king says. When she shot, one person solved all the evil steel soldiers at the time. And the culprit was tried on the spot." Thor nodded as he listened. Suddenly raised his head again. "Wait, you mean the second angel?" "Yeah," the female assistant nodded. "The king of Angel said when talking with his father that Angel is an elite civilization, that is to say, every angel is an extremely important unit." Thor continues to add, "If there are more than one angel now, it means that Angel is developing rapidly." "Really?" At this moment, the 3 of GN asked in surprise. Angel never said this sentence, and no one knew it. And Thor's 2 sentences sounded pretty reliable. At this time, not waiting for Thor to answer, a curious standard male voice came over. "What you said is true." As the 4 people turned their heads over, a bald man in a black suit was standing by the door. And after a while, behind him came several jeeps and the same group of black agents. Introduction: My name is Phil Coulson, I am an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. After speaking, Phil Coulson waved his hand without looking back. "Move." Suddenly, the agents who were ordered started to enter the door and picked up all the things that could be seen here. At the same time, Phil Coulson wrote a check and handed it to Jane. "Enough value for everything here." Jane watched dumbfoundedly as a group of agents came in and moved things. She reacted and hurriedly shouted, "Hey! How can you do this? This is all me." Jane. At this moment, the old man next to Jane immediately drove Jane away. "Don't watch S.H.I.E.L.D. lick so much in front of Angel. But in a normal society, S.H.I.E.L.D. basically does whatever it wants. Isn't it normal to buy and sell strongly? What if you were a doctor? I said you have to sell if you sell it. But S.H.I.E.L.D. still makes sense. For example, the check given completely exceeds the total value of these things. Wait until the arrangements are over." Phil Coulson looked at Thor, who was blinded in his chair. "Can you tell me what you know about Angel? If we get useful information, we can help you as much as possible." One of Thor's eyes. He looked at the agile, rigorous and orderly agent and then looked at Phil Coulson. These S.H.I.E.L.D. people look more reliable than the 3 just now. So Thor nodded. It happened to be taken by Phil Coulson to the research institute near Mjolnir. "In the house. My father brought me down here, but he didn't say when to let me go back. My supernatural power disappeared, and my hammer disappeared. Now I have no other characteristics except a little strength. But as long as you can find Angel, you can definitely solve the problem. Facing Thor's remarks, Phil Coulson suddenly asked, "Hammer?" Phil Coulson gestured with his hands. "So big, so long, and there is a bracelet on the handle of the hammer." Thor's eyes widened suddenly. He quickly stood up and asked, "That's my hammer." "Where is my hammer?" "Your hammer." Phil Coulson was puzzled. "Follow me." Brought Thor to the temporary laboratory where he was studying the hammer. Thor ran over as soon as he saw the hammer. As soon as the surrounding agents wanted to stop, Phil Coulson signaled to leave it alone. The following is the same as in the plot. Thor didn't pick up the hammer. He knelt down on the ground sadly. Mjolnir no longer recognizes himself. In other words, he is no different from being abandoned. Phil Coulson walked over and patted Thor on the shoulder. "Keep on telling me more about Angel. I'll send you to New York in a few days, and then it's up to you." Hear the word Angel. Thor suddenly rekindled his hope. He quickly got up to keep up with Phil Coulson. At the same time, on the roof of the Angel building. Today is the third day. Tony finally smashed the armor and went home in the middle of the night. Although he doesn't know why, he still jumped happily when he got home. Angel has a lot of faith. Hexy spoke and looked towards New York City in the distance. In New York City now, basically you can't go far to see the banner of Angel hanging. These are all voluntarily linked by the public. It seemed that I hoped that hanging the banner of Angel would protect my safety. Then let the bad guys see that they can take a detour. Aelin looked at the building under her feet. When the Sky City is built, what about this building? Keep it. Do you want to leave an empty building? If you don't stay, what about this building? But in fact, Luo Hua had already thought about it. I will clean it up and transform it into an angel's place of prayer. This will also give those who believe in Angel a place to condense their faith. This can be regarded as a base for faith in Angel among mankind. Say this approach. Hexy and Aelin nodded in agreement at the same time. In the previous Angel civilization, there are indeed places where relevant beliefs are established in the mortal world. These buildings can significantly improve cohesion. And Angel also has ways to follow these people's beliefs. Through the communication prayer column, you can listen to those who radiate sincere faith in their hearts. Feel the energy in the body just right. Luo Hua also thinks it's almost done. I'm going to start creating. Hexy and Aelin looked at each other, and at the same time stepped back and waited. Angel Civilization Creation System. Angel. Luo Hua, King of Angel. Hexy, Aelin. Technology. The second generation of Angel's body, Angel's wings, eyes of insight. Among the milestones of Angel Civilization, the Sky City is a crucial step. It is located on the planet in the Angel Nebula and is the home of every angel. It was the first step in Angel Civilization to ignore natural disasters. It is also an important step for Angel to settle down in the nebula in the future. After the concept is set, Luo Hua continued to enter all the technological settings that he studied during this period of time into the settings. Gradually, the impression of a city in the sky gradually solidified in his mind. Basic module, power module, ... With the gradual improvement of technology, the Sky City became completely real in Luo Hua's mind. Next, here comes the most important step. Inject the energy of faith. After Luo Hua gave the order, the entire Sky City was sublimated instantly under Luo Hua's instructions. It exudes a bright light. At the same time, white clouds gradually spread over the tens of thousands of meters above the Angel building. Obviously the wind is light. However, the citizens of New York and the nearby axes all set what they had at hand and looked to the sky. They all felt that something was going to happen there. Sudden, with a ray of light that resembles a diamond refracted light appeared. A corner of the Sky City is revealed in reality. What is that? The people in the city were surprised at once. They pointed to the bright spots in the sky. And Luo Hua sighed. With the continuous injection of huge energy, the Sky City has gradually emerged from the bottom corner. But the white clouds in the sky began to slowly spread from the bottom of the corner. This is the basic way of covering up. Can't let the city of the sky be exposed to people's sight all the time. Watching the city in the sky slowly disappear, the citizens of New York only saw a corner and disappeared. But on Luo Hua's side, the Sky City has gradually sublimated into half of the city. And the links such as energy no longer need Luo Hua to concentrate on. Looking back at the two women, Luo Hua motioned, "Go up and see, how is our new home?" Hexi and Aelin nodded. With a flap of wings, the three of them came to at the moment as if they were in front of the city of the sky filled with crystals such as paint. At the moment, the city of the sky is still gradually condensing. After all, it is too big. Then after a while, an entire sky city finally unfolded over the entire New York. Seen from the bottom, its white jade-like theme style makes it look majestic. But if you continue to look at it at the same time, it still has a sense of peace and holiness in it. But if you look from the top down, the entire city of the sky became brilliant in an instant. Its continuous architecture and planning make it look like a masterpiece that even this unit of the century cannot complete. It is so beautiful, from beginning to end. Aelin's eyes never left the city in the sky. Because it is so eye-catching. Let's go, this will be our new home from now on. When Luo Hua said this sentence, both Hexi and Aelin looked at him at the same time. Maybe the touch is too big. They nodded heavily. Yeah. The two women followed Luo Hua's left and right sides and flew into the Sky City. Look at the square and buildings of Noda under your feet. Even Luo Hua himself feels a little unspeakable. Finally reached this point. From now on, Angel's rapid development has officially set sail. From now on, whether it is technology or equipment, whether it is food, clothing, housing, transportation or entertainment and exercise, it's all right here. Basically, all the necessary conditions for the survival of a civilization have been met here. At the same time, angels born from now on will receive a home here. Roar, strengths, take a breath, hold back the blood surging in my heart. Luo Hua took Hexi and Aelin to the center of the entire Sky City. It is also where Luo Hua will live in the future. And the middle of the entire Sky City. There is only one place that is the most important. That is, the palace of the king. It means that the king is in place. Came to the gate of the palace a few meters high. Hexi and Aelin took the initiative to move forward and gently pushed them away and stood on both sides of the door. As for why not automatically? Because sometimes the most primitive can best understand the background and rules of a civilization. When Hexi and Aelin opened the door, a large hall appeared in front of Luo Hua. Straight through the red carpet on the soles of the feet. From the farthest point, and also the highest point, is a throne with huge wings. And this throne is the authority of an angel. And there are no stairs or passages to get to that throne. This means, the king is the only one. And below the throne. If you think there are different positions and seats, then you are wrong. Under the throne, all positions are the same. Except for the different positions before and after, they are all the same, there is no difference in height. This also means that everyone is an angel, without nobility and lowliness. Everyone is the most perfect creature. So the difference is only the job, not the biology. Come to the throne. Luo Hua waved his wings lightly. Then he came to this position. Looking back at the two women, Hexi and Aelin stood respectfully on both sides of the throne, quietly waiting for Luo Hua to sit down. Yes, this is my position. Turned around, sit down, lie back, as if everything was deserved. Luo Hua is not jerky. Angel Civilization Creation System. Angel. Luo Hua, King of Angel. Hexi, Aelin. Technology. The first generation of Angel's body, the second generation of Angel's body, Angel's wings, belief energy conversion, the Eye of Insight, micro wormhole transport technology, dark energy communication technology, full energy projection technology, dark computer, Sky City. Look at the technology from 2 or 3 technologies to the current 10 technology. In fact, only a short period of time passed all the way. So, the plan in his mind can finally be realized. Elon, do you remember the Antarctic vibranium I talked about? Now we have the equipment, so this task will be handled by you now. Aelin. Yes, Hexi, I want you to develop weapons and armors that cooperate with Aelin to mine Antarctic vibranium, and then I will give you some data for reference. At the same time, I still need some handy weapons, but these designs need to be done by myself, and I will pass the data to you at that time. Hexi. Yes, after arranging the two women, Luo Hua looked at them and said slowly, After that, I will be responsible for the development of the third-generation Angel's Body project. At the same time, soon, we will need more angels to join. In other words, you are about to welcome new sisters. I heard that a new sister is coming. Aelin became happy all at once. She definitely hopes that the more angels, the better. But Hexie seemed to have something wrong. Does it mean that she doesn't like the new angel? Anyway, there seems to be something wrong. But now is not the time to talk about this. After arranging these things, Luo Hua stood up from the throne. Well, there are many exquisite and luxurious attic courtyards around this king's palace. Whichever one you like, consider it your home. If there is a need, I will inform you by correspondence, and I will also go to my residence to go around. Disband as soon as I heard it. Both Aelin and Hexie seemed to stiffen up. So many days of the same indoor life. They were already familiar with the life of watching Wang by his side. Look at the last time. Luo Hua stayed in the study for 2 days. As a result, Hexie could not stand at the door of Luo Hua for a day and waited for a day. Then if you only wait for Luo Hua's notice or if you have something to do, you can go to Luo Hua. How long does it take to see each other? 1 week. Stumped for a month. Thinking of this, they felt a little uncomfortable. But this is Luo Hua's order. They can only choose a home for the time being. Wait until they are gone. Luo Hua waved his wings gently. Then came to the back of the throne. There is a passage that goes straight to the back. After walking through the passage, you will come to a very beautiful courtyard with a big trick. And it's not generally big. Flowers, grass, trees, streams, pavilions, resting, tea drinking, chatting, and even temporary sleeping places are all available. And continue to look forward. It is a brilliant building with 2 floors. It is Luo Hua's private home. Chapter 61. Although it looks exquisite and perfect here. But if you observe carefully, you will find out. The things here are rather simple. There are not many future technologies. There are not many miscellaneous things. Everything here is useful and simple. If you have to describe it, it's like luxury with simplicity. Obviously there are 2 words with a big difference in meaning, but now they can describe it. After looking around, Luo Hua came to the courtyard and sat down. Take out a tea set from the dark plane. Then he poured tea and took a sip. Don't tell me. It turns out that Hexie and Aelin can be seductive when they are both around. But now she suddenly disappeared. Still a little uncomfortable. Definitely, it's just feeling. What we should do now is to study the third-generation Angel's body. At the moment in a certain military base. Ross is having dinner with his newest and most powerful soldier Brownsky. Definitely, Brownsky can have dinner with him because they are now wearing a pair of pants. After all, Brownsky had already injected the potion. Brownsky, how do you feel after so many days? Rose wiped his mouth after eating and asked Brownsky who was still eating. Brownsky replied while eating and drinking wildly. Sir, I feel very good. Now not only my strength has become stronger, but I also feel that my recovery ability is particularly strong. Rose nodded in satisfaction, but Brownsky then spoke in a tone of dissatisfaction and jealousy. Sir, why didn't I become like Hulk? His power should be much stronger than me now. I tried it, and I can't lift such a heavy thing. And after various tests, the distance between me and it is too far. Ross wiped his mouth. He looked at Brownsky with a deep look. Hulk was due to an accident, and if you follow up well, you will mass produce it. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Brownsky was stunned. Just a volume product. It turns out that I have at least a quantity product. No wonder there is no such strength and strength as Hulk. At this time, do not wait for the 2 to say anything. A scientific researcher in a white robe ran over with a notebook. He gestured to Rose to show his notebook. General, we found that Hulk's notebook frequently communicated with a person named Mr. Land for a long time. It is recorded in the diary that they mailed things to each other, and Hulk even sent his own blood to this Mr. Land to make medicine. And this period of time has been several years. That Mr. Land has probably researched something. What? Rose stood up in surprise. He immediately grabbed the researcher and asked, who is Mr. Land? Where is he? We don't know yet. The scientific researcher trembled and explained, we can find Mr. Land's position in at most 3 days. Then hurry up. After the scientific researcher ran away, Ross sat down again and looked at Brownsky. After we finish reading Mr. Land's research results, we will decide when to capture Hulk. Brownsky nodded. Yes, sir. Although verbally agreed. But Brownsky is still thinking about Mr. Land's potion. Stumped. Is it a potent to become stronger? Right, since it was the blood that Hulk sent him. Then he must have something about Hulk potions. If you can use Hulk potions, you will definitely become stronger. Brownsky glanced at Rose inadvertently. I can't express these yet. He can only get the potion in his hand immediately when he finds Mr. Land and then inject it into his body. This is the only way. At the same time, there is S.H.I.E.L.D. who cannot sleep at night like Rose. In the middle of the night. S.H.I.E.L.D. is all working overtime tonight, and the lights are brightly lit. Whatfack. When was this built? At the moment the marinated egg crumbled and put his hands on his head. I was happy today. As a result, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s intelligence center told him. The satellite reconnaissance report shows that there is a city suspended above the Angel building in New York. Closing curly bracket. At this moment, I was silly to the halogen egg. City. Suspended over the Angel building. He quickly went back to S.H.I.E.L.D. to take a look. Good guy, this style will tell you that it is Angel City. But how did this amazing city come from? Not just now. Turn around and come to an urban area of tens of kilometers. And even though this is Angel's right. But why did you still accept the building built by S.H.I.E.L.D. before? Chief Fury, this city was born out of thin air at noon. Furthermore, according to the investigation, at that time, taking the Angel building as a radius, citizens in several states including New York found that there was a strange attraction there. This caused at least tens of millions of citizens to look at the sky above the Angel building at the same time. Ah, Fury scratched his hairless scalp. How to explain this? Is it the same as last time? Just record it and it's over. But last time it was an unknown technology. So it doesn't matter. It's an unknown city now. That's it. At this time, Phil Coulson called an urgent phone call. Chief Nick Fury, I found new news about Angel civilization. What? Say it. Fury was overjoyed. This is really dozing off the pillow. Yesterday I accidentally found a man who knew about Angel civilization. Then after communication, he knew this. Then, Phil Coulson told Fury everything from the time he found Thor to when Thor told him everything he could say. From what to talk to Odin. What's more, Angel civilization was still a widow at the time. And in the end, what is the thought of Angel civilization and so on. Although for the time being, this is only an introduction to Angel civilization. And it's still that kind of incomplete introduction. But this is so useful for Fury mortals. At least I can know where I licked, cough cough cough. No, at least I know what to do, and what is their general idea. After a little bit of clarification, Fury hung up. In other words, the establishment of this city as Angel's rapid development node. Fury embraced his arms. The city of Angel that can be seen from the satellite is only the outline of the outside. Throughout the city of Angel, they can only see the vague concepts outside. I can't even see the details. Not necessarily. Phil Coulson agent also said that as long as the second Angel appears, it is already the beginning of development. Hill also listened to all the content next to him and added. If you follow this reasoning, Thor said, Angel civilization is an elite civilization. The more angels, the stronger the civilization. This is different from ordinary people in our society, each of their units is an elite. Fury nodded deeply. Yes, it is estimated that each one was cultivated at a huge cost. Hill looked at Fury. Then this city. Fury held his chin with one hand and thought for a while with the other. Create a file and call it the City of Angel. We have no way to understand it. You can never call a helicopter or a fighter jet to inspect it. So just put it here, we can't do anything. They won't do bad things anyway. Hill nodded, pressed the headset and went to the intelligence center to make arrangements. The next day, castle in the sky. Early this morning, Aelin came to ask for instructions to punish Antarctic mining vibranium. For Angel with insight, as long as the dark energy and the eye of insight are combined with the use of microwormhole transportation technology. So finding vibranium in Antarctica is extremely simple. Wong, then I will go first. Luo Hua nodded. Go early and return early. Yes, Alan stood at the courtyard door. Then he held his heart with one hand to Luo Hua, bowed his body and bowed, and walked away. After Alan left, Luo Hua picked up the tea on the pavilion table and took a sip. And then prepared to perfect the third-generation angel's body technology. If this technology succeeds, at least there will be no threat before facing those artifacts. At this time, there was a patter of footsteps. Luo Hua's head just raised a little. I saw long and white legs standing outside the courtyard. This is not who Hexie could be. But he hasn't notified Hexie to come. Why did she come by herself? Come in. Yes. Hexie felt Luo Hua's gaze stay on his lap for a moment, and he rushed to ecstasy. What does this show? This shows that I still have specialties. This also shows that I have a place to attract Luo Hua. Walking with his slender legs, he walked over to Luo Hua and sat down. Hexie consciously picked up the teapot on the table to make up for Luo Hua, who had just taken a sip of tea. Then pour his own glass. How did you sleep yesterday? Looking at Hexie's tea, Luo Hua asked caringly. Me. Hexie put down the teapot. I didn't sleep yesterday. Huh. Luo Hua picked up Hexie's poured cup. When you arrive at your new home, why not take a break? Yeah, I can't sleep a bit. Hexie held the teacup in both hands, just thinking about how Angel and the others will be distributed in the future. Then how to set the style of armor, how to set the weapon, and so on. When he said this, Hexie didn't seem to worry about it. Instead, she said it easily. Really, thank you for your hard work. Luo Hua took a sip of tea and put down the cup and said, show me what difficulties you have encountered in design, and I will make up for you. ! Hexie's eyes moved. She was a little embarrassed to use the energy projection to derive the design model. Then put it in front of Luo Hua. Then, Luo Hua took this armor weapon energy model, which was obviously close to completion, and started thinking. Isn't this close to the design? Take this energy model light cluster in your hand. Luo Hua looked back and forth, and it was okay. Turning his head, he glanced at Hexie, who was peeking at him. Seeing Luo Hua looking at herself, she quickly turned her azure blue eyes back to look at the pond. I see. Is it on my mind? Luo Hua put down the energy model in his hand. Then he sighed softly. Let's talk about it. Tell me what is hidden in my heart. Since I am your king, I am also your family parent. So there is no need to worry about anything in front of me. Even if you cause a catastrophe in the universe in the future, I will still choose to protect you. I won't cause trouble. Listening to Luo Hua's warm words, Hexie seemed to be warm all over his body. If you want to get into trouble, it will be in the future. She is the wildest of us. Yes, that's right, but you are the most skinny. This is what Luo Hua didn't say. After organizing the voice, Hexie stood up. Then he walked slowly to Luo Hua's side and almost sat down next to him. She looked at Luo Hua's beautiful hand on the table and said in a dull voice. Wang, if both Kesha and Liang Bing come out, can I see you casually in the future? What is the strange problem? Definitely yes. Luo Hua talked to Hexie while dealing with things on the table. With his current processing capacity, multitasking definitely is no problem. Then, Hexie thought for a while, a little wondering what to say. Then are we all the same? ? What a strange question this is. Luo Hua answered without thinking, definitely the same. Roar, I don't know if it's auditory hallucinations. Luo Hua seemed to hear Hexie sigh. He turned his head, and immediately saw Hexie looking at him with faint eyes. How to drop. I'm afraid that the three kings will grab the food. And many more. At this moment, Luo Hua seems to have figured it out. Hexie seems to be worried. It was because of his concern for her, and was divided into three. Now what he has to do is directly instruct Hexie. And whether it's researching, discussing, chatting, or joking, I'm not looking for Alan or Hexie. But among them, Hexie is the most. So when the three kings came out, will Luo Hua keep looking for herself? Not necessarily. Because Luo Hua is the same to all angels, he will certainly not be partial to angels with high potential like the three kings. Although this is correct, but this cake of Hexie was indeed divided into 3 portions of Keisha and 1 piece of cold ice. This is what makes Hexie the most uncomfortable. Obviously nothing is wrong, everything is right, and everything should be like this. But this cake is divided into 3 parts. Although this cake is not strictly Hexie's, at least she has owned it. This is obviously a normal thing. Hexie is uncomfortable. Besides, it is uncomfortable for everyone to turn to this matter. Finally understood the cause and effect. Luo Hua also took a sigh of relief. Let me say hello. Luo Hua looked at Hexie, who turned his head slightly. At the moment, she was not shy, nor arrogant, she was just expressing a little dissatisfaction. She looked into the distance beside her. The eyes do not blink. Okay, I assure you, even after Keisha and Liang Bing came out, what they are now and what they will be in the future. Hear what Luo Hua said. Hexie turned back slightly. Then pretended to think for a while. But suddenly he stretched out his right hand and gave birth to his little finger. Retractor. Luo Hua, how old you are? Luo Hua stretched out his hand helplessly, and then hooked up with Hexie's little finger. That's all right. Hexie blinked at Luo Hua's eyes and said solemnly, this agreement is immutable in eternal time. Good, good. Luo Hua nodded. Finished the final action of the hook with Hexie. After retracting his hand, the scene slowly quieted down. He, who was in a very good mood, happily adjusted the weapon armor and began to modify the final pattern. Luo Hua also continued to develop the 3rd-generation angel's body. But after a while, Luo Hua was suddenly hit on the shoulder. Turned his head. Hexie closed his eyes at the moment, and the long eyelashes seemed to be covering his eyes. And those pink lips with baby-like smooth skin are no different from cherries. Who can't sleep here? Ah! Luo Hua sighed inwardly and waved his hand to take out a blanket from the dark plane to cover Hexie's body. Although it's not that she is afraid of getting sick. But the at-the-moment blanket will be more comfortable to sleep on the body, and it will also increase the sense of security. This is not. Hexie, who had just been covered by the blanket, rubbed Luo Hua's shoulder with his cheek. The morning after 2 days. Alan has successfully collected Antarctic vibranium. And it's fortunate to have dark computer paying micro-wormhole transportation technology. Otherwise, Alan doesn't know how many trips it takes to finish the metal. When Sky City received vibranium, it had already begun to build armor and weapons. At the same time, a man with ragged clothes and messy hair finally came to New York. After a long journey, he straddled an entire unknown distance before he came here. Oh, my goodness, I hope I still have time. Banner looked at Angel's banners everywhere in the city and sighed. If Angel's reputation is so big. In fact, I would wander back and forth on the most dangerous edge. Banner knew, if it was himself, Angel will definitely not judge him. But if it was Hulk who came out to destroy it, maybe Hulk is really gone. And the absence of Hulk means that he is gone. Banner looked at the surrounding buildings. Immediately go to the address given by Mr. Lan. Inside a military base. Quickly, quickly. Rose took the walkie-talkie and quickly commanded the soldiers to move quickly. Sir, I hope that after I find Mr. Lan, I will lead me to deal with him, because I am more resistant to beatings. Brownsky looked at Rose, who was in an emergency, and said. Just now, the researchers told Mr. Roslin that he had found it. And it's in a private laboratory of a certain university. So Ross immediately mobilized special soldiers to make an emergency attack. For the research of Mr. Lan. He Rose is bound to win. Listen, Mr. Thor, I will provide you with a hotel in New York, and I will deliver it to you every day. But if you want to see Angel, then you can only rely on yourself. A helicopter that just flew to New York. Phil Coulson is telling Thor some precautions. I see, Angel knows me, he will definitely help me. Thor answered in the affirmative. Angel knows him, as long as they meet, they will definitely recognize him. Phil Coulson watched Thor's stunned look and reminded him worriedly, I suggest you don't use excessive methods to meet Angel, otherwise my agent will stop you in advance. And use an electric baton to electrically twitch you on the ground, drooling. Thor looked at Phil Coulson. No. At the moment Thor didn't know that his arrival would bring a terrifying armor to New York. It is the Destroyer's armor. It is about to be released by Loki in the center of New York. At the moment the sky above the Angel building. In the city of the sky. Luo Hua's technology of controlling microwormholes made these newly built weapons float and observe. Yes, After 2 days of building, the low-tech Antarctic vibranium has been built into a weapon armor. Speaking of characteristic hemp, in addition to its extremely high defense power, it also has the ability to decompose local metals. And in the process of building, Luo Hua's inspiration also added its energy-absorbing feature. But this feature is different from Wakanda vibranium. The latter energy-absorbing will fight back. Antarctic vibranium will dilute and spread throughout the body after energy-absorbing to counteract the attack. In other words, sharp weapons are useless in front of this armor, because the energy will be absorbed and then diluted to the whole body. This way the defense power will increase countless times. Alan, take it to the body to see how it is going, Luo Hua said. Yes, Alan nodded, stepped forward and took the armor weapon. Then after the analysis is complete, you can carry it on yourself. Micro wormhole handling technology. With Alan's control, the body-sculpted armor was worn on her body. It is no different from the original Angel Civilization armor. This armor only provides key protection on the chest, shoulders, wrists, hips, knees and feet. The other locations are more like decoration. But this is not bells and whistles. Because just wear this Antarctic vibranium armor. Even the softest abdomen with a sword is the same as the strongest shoulder. Dilute because of energy diffusion. Ding. Angel Civilization technology set successfully. Angel Civilization Creation System. Vibranium armor. A special armor that uses only 5 parts to link energy. In addition to its extremely high defense power, it can also use the output energy to stimulate the decomposition of surrounding metals. Note, because of the special technology, no matter where the armor is attacked, there is no difference. Yes, this is enough before we get a higher level of metal. Luo Hua just finished speaking. He saw that Hexi took out another weapon from the dark plane. Wong, this is for you. Your wormhole has the most horrible calculations, so you can already control remote weapons. Strictly speaking, this should not be considered a weapon, because it is a double wing overall. Yes, metal wings. Use wormhole technique to take over Hexi's double wing weapon. Luo Hua was a little bit dumbfounded in his heart. Although I can use it, the use of wings consumes too much energy compared to melee weapons. But it's all made, I will use this in the future. Just use it. Doesn't it just consume too much? My King Angel can't afford to consume weapons with weapons. At the moment, outside the private laboratory of a university in New York, the number 1 sniper position is in place. The second sniper position is in place. Number 3. Ross at the moment was sitting in the command car and commanded with a headset. Remember, this is a narcotic bomb, but it is very powerful. Don't attack the vital parts. The target also has other research value. Yes, since this Mr. Lan can study to such an extent, then it is better to tie him back as his own scientific researcher. Bronsky stood under the private laboratory. He was sweating all over, and his whole body was agitated. And the certain position of Mr. Lan was also sent from the headset. Second floor, in the second room to the southeast. At the moment of determining the location, Bronsky immediately put down the gun in his hand and rushed up. As soon as Rose's assistant saw it, he immediately shouted, "Bronsky, soldiers act privately." Ross also yelled, "Bronsky, that's an important goal, come back soon." Bang! Bronsky had already reached the second floor and smashed the door of Mr. Lan's private laboratory with a shoulder collision. He broke in and grabbed Mr. Lan by the collar and lifted him up. "Quick, give me all the potions related to Hulk. You have studied him for so long. I don't believe you have no achievements." Facing Bronsky's hideous roar, Mr. Lan was trembling with a bit of suffocation, pointing his finger to a refrigerator next to him. "There is the place to store the medicine." It didn't take long for him to research it out. "See the potion." Bronsky flicked Mr. Lan with green eyes. "Wow!" screamed. Mr. Lan was thrown out the window directly. Bronsky looked at the colorful pile of medicines in the freezer. He picked up everything he didn't care about, and pierced into his heart. "This is the potion for Hulk. And there are other miscellaneous dangerous medicines. If these are injected, so now hatred will become geometrically stronger than before." Pissed. With the injection of medicament, Bronsky's roar instantly resounded across the streets of Harlem. "I want to become the strongest creature in the world." No. At this time, when Shanshan came late, Banner saw Mr. Lan being thrown out. Roar. In an instant, Rage's banner instantly turned into a green hulk over 3 meters high. He leapt forward and wanted to follow Mr. Lan. At the same time, in the Sky City, Alan stood in front of Luo Hua and reported. Wong, 2 monsters appeared on the streets of Harlem. One of them has lost consciousness. Do I need to suppress it? Hear Alan's report. Luo Hua leaned on the throne, with his legs overlapping. He rested his right elbow on the armrest and dragged his chin with one hand. And the other left hand clicked on the left handrail. Open eye of insight. After looking at the situation a little bit. Go ahead. Yes. Alan received the order, turned around and walked out after saluting. But Luo Hua just thought of something to add. By the way, remember to bring back both genetic samples. After speaking, Luo Hua took out 2 test tubes from the dark plane and floated in front of Alan with the wormhole technique. Yes, Alan took the instrument, took it into the dark plane and left after saluting. After seeing Alan go, Hexy stood under Luo Hua's throne and raised his head curiously. Why the black gene too? He should be a failure. It used to be definitely a failure. Luo Hua sat on the throne, reaching out to control the abomination model and data simulated by the energy just now. But now it might be interesting. Different from the original hatred. This hatred had not only injected the medicine that Hulk originally intended to inject. And it injected all the strange medicines of Mr. Lan. All will lead to. At the moment Luo Hua's energy simulation of hatred is 5 meters high. It is even about 2 meters taller than Hulk. And what is different from before? This abominable appearance is a body covered with unruly black materials. In addition, the knees, elbows, and some protruding positions on the back have long spear-like thorns. In other words, at the moment's hatred has been genetically mutated. So there is a little research value. See the energy model in Luo Hua's hands. Hexy also used the Eye of Insight to observe it again. But it seems, not all of Luo Hua's. However, Luo Hua passed all the data directly to her after seeing it. Next, the screen turns back to Hulk on the street in Harlem. Accompanied by Rose's roar, "Go! Go! Go to a safe place!" Hulk swooped directly into the air to catch Mr. Lan. But at the same time booming. After the sound, Mr. Lan's private laboratory was directly knocked down. Suddenly the streets of Harlem were filled with smoke and dust. Just when people want to wait for the dust to disperse. Bang, bang, bang. Every foot will bring a black shadow on the ground that trembles appearing in the dust. Although I can't see its appearance. But through the black shadow, you can see its huge body and hideous long spines. Roar. The black shadow fiddled with the dust. The original smoke was blown away by the wind. Even the billboard next to it shook. Hulk, come out. The roar of hatred echoed in this street. It heard Hulk's shout just now. The figure that was thinking about it day and night appeared in its mind. I hate that I must not have heard it wrong. It turned his head and looked around. At the moment he was standing in the ruins of a building. And all around was dust and people fleeing. At this time, he suddenly saw a 3-meter-high figure lying in his arms not far away. Hulk, disgust immediately roared excitedly. Bang bang bang. The 5-meter-high disgust ran over with the sound of shaking on the ground. Hulk lying on the ground couldn't react. Disgust is directly a kick. Boom. A sound like an explosion sounded. The dust around Hulk exploded at the moment the hatred mentioned. And Hulk was taken away hundreds of meters away in an instant. Bang, bang, bang. Along the way, from breaking the billboard to flying into the street. Knocked over a few more cars and a truck finally banged. Hulk stopped after hitting a wall. Tighter, tighter. Ah, ba 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 ba. For a moment, the screams of the crowd, the horns of cars in a hurry and the sound of police sirens that were already ready to rush into a mess. From the whole street riot in Harlem to New York, everyone knew that it only took more than 10 minutes. Everyone knows what these roars and collisions represent. Not to mention the thick smoke and dust in the distance can be seen from dozens of kilometers away. Ahem, ahem. At the moment Hulk propped himself on the ground with his limbs and coughed. He just hated the sprint and kicked it directly on his waist. All of this caused Hulk to cough up green blood. But don't wait for Hulk to rest for a while. Bang, bang, bang. There was a heavy running sound in the distance. Boom, Kong, bang. Along the way, wherever disgust ran to dismantle. When you encounter a car, trample on it. Pull it up and smash it when you encounter it. For a time, there were screams and explosions all over the streets of Harlem. Hulk raised his head. In an instant he saw something that made him angry. Because of what? Because hatred came here with Mr. Lan in his hand. His legs and head, held in his hands by the hatred, swayed with the running of hatred. It seems that the air is almost out of air. Roar. Hulk roared. Let it go. Let it go. Bump. Hulk hit the floor twice to bounce himself up. He squeezed his fists. My muscles are tight, and I feel that the reminder has become a lot bigger. The green pupils stared deeply in disgust. Then his legs rushed towards hatred. Roar. Looking at it with disgust, Hulk rushed towards him. In an instant, he threw out Mr. Lan on his hand. This throw is directly hundreds of meters. Mr. Lan was scattered in the air like a rag doll. Without even thinking about it, he fell directly into mud. Hulk, who was running, saw this. He became even more angry instantly. Immediately speed up the run and rush up. Roar. Ha 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 ha. The raging laughter of hatred spread far and wide. It laughed and roared. Hulk, you are already a waste. You won't be as strong as me. Talking, they have rushed to each other. And shook his fist at the same time. Boom. Their fists were squeezed out in a burst of air. Wow. All the surrounding glass was shattered. Tighter, tighter. In addition, the alarm sounded from the car. The whole street was noisy for a while. But the hatred of punches is just a few meters back. And Hulk, boom, he was hit by a punch and flew upside down in an instant. The 5-meter-high abomination fought against the 3-meter-high Hulk. Before they knew that concentration was the essence. Huge size represents power and tonnage. Boom. After knocking down a few more houses, Hulk stayed in the ruins for a long time and never recovered. And the index finger and middle finger of his fist had split. It can be seen deep inside that the bone wound is the blow of the fist. Hulk gasped. He shook his head and looked at the tall black figure walking towards him not far away. Can't beat. Really can't beat it. I hate if it's just a single injection of Hulk's potion. Then he at the moment may not be able to use any ability temporarily. But he also injected a lot of miscellaneous injections. This directly led to the genetic mutation of his body. Hulk watched as the disgust approached. He struggled to get up slowly. Then turned around. He took a long look at the Holy Angel building. You count on Angel to rescue you. Disgust sneered after seeing Hulk's actions. I think Angel will judge you directly after seeing you. Because you are also a monster, ha 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 ha. Hulk jerked his head back when he heard it. He stared at hatred and said every word. You. Also. Yes. Strange. Thing. Gia 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 Gia. Suddenly after just hate to hear his voice in a smile. Then roared furiously. That's because I am different from you. You still hope to get salvation from Angel. But I am different. I hope to hunt Angel. Become the most powerful creature in the world. I must try what Angel's blood tastes like. Hulk's anger surged when he heard it. Angel is his savior in Hulk's eyes. But hatred is not even in his eyesight shit. He wants to hunt Angel. Roar, roar, roar. Hulk gasped. His whole body was shaking with anger. And what he didn't even know was, the fists that split the pair of fists just now slowly healed. Actually, the potion Mr. Lan prepared for Hulk has only 2 effects. One is to make it easier for Hulk to integrate with Banner. 2 is to weaken Hulk's violent power. So, at the moment, Hulk, who didn't inject the potion of the original plot, was actually more prone to rage, and more likely to become stronger. But the reason for being beaten now, it's because of loathing that the gene mutated all at once. Otherwise, the current Hulk can hang up and fight the hatred in the original plot. And the previous hatred did not fight back any ability. This is the power of violent Hulk. Breathing. Hulk jerked his head down and ran wildly. He jumped towards hatred and slammed it over. Look at it with disgust. Immediately rushed up and waved his fists. I don't know if he doesn't have enough brains or he wants to fight upright. The current abomination clearly has long thorns in the joints but never uses it. If you hate it, use it directly. Can directly cause serious injuries to Hulk. Boom. It was another punch. This time the hatred actually rolled on the ground. But then he hammered the ground with unscathed anger and climbed up. But Hulk flew upside down just like last time. And the palm cracked again. Looking at Hulk lying on the ground, Disgust crooked his neck, squeezed his fists and laughed. Hulk, you are too weak. When I play with you for a while, I will find Angel to be my opponent, not the weak you now. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of footsteps shaking the ground continued to sound. Abomination, 2.5 stories high, walked on the streets of Harlem. The citizens hiding on the second floor looked at the huge amounts of heads passing in front of them and peed in their pants. Had it not been for only one hatred, the giant, who is also quite a bit aggressive, has a sense of sight. Mom, 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 where are you, woo? At the moment, a child who was crying and touching his tears walked down the street at a loss. She has a water glass hanging on her body, and she holds the sandwiches she bought in the supermarket just now. The girl cried and yelled while rubbing her tears and walking in confusion in one direction. She doesn't know where her mother is, because the riots just now have scattered many people. Children. Looking at the savage road, there are children in hatred. Hey, it grinned grimly, suddenly turned away from Hulk and chose to walk towards the little girl. Bang, bang, bang. Seeing Disgust and the little girl get closer and closer. Roar, a roar that was about to tear his throat resounded throughout New York. Hulk boom, his punch hit the ground. He raised his head and shouted angrily to the sky. Get out. At the moment, Hulk's body shape seemed to grow a full circle. His whole muscles burst, like a block of tires. Bang, bang, bang. Disgust turned his head and took a look. Hulk rushed over like a triple jump. Turns out he just wanted to punch. Hulk was directly changed in the air into a horizontal kick. Bang, rumble. This time, what flew out was actually a 5-meter-high hatred. Boom, 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 boom. The hatred that was rolling all the way crashed several buildings one after another before it came to a halt. Hulk got up from the ground. He waved quickly at the little girl. The little girl was taken aback when she saw the same terrible Hulk. Immediately turned around and ran wildly. See this? Hulk breathed out awkwardly. As long as you can stay away from this battlefield. But he may not be able to beat the hatred of 5 meters. How to do this? Hulk is not stupid. Although he is reckless and ruthless, he is sensible. For example, in Thor, Ragnarok, Thor calls him back. Hulk is back in Rage's situation. At this time, whang, a huge rock suddenly slammed into Hulk. Bang, Hulk, who was still in a daze, was smashed into the air without responding. Sitting in the ruins, Hulk shook his groggy head that had been smashed. The smash just now was not light. Almost let him pass his breath directly. Gia 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 Gia. At the moment he hates the deep smile. You want to beat me with just this little strength. You are really too weak. Talking. He also shook his head and expressed regret that Hulk could not do it. Talking. He passed by a large billboard. And the 5-meter-high hatred is about the same height as the billboard. Then, he just took the billboard of steel pipe Jira. Pull it out all at once. Roar. Hulk then pounced. He waved his arm fiercely in disgust. Bang! Hulk, who had just pounced on, was immediately disgusted and fanned out by a billboard. But at the same time the billboard was also broken. By now, Disgust seems tired of playing. He stretched out his hand and smoothed the thorn of his elbow and said, You are so boring, I'm tired of playing with you. Next, let me kill you, and then go to Angel. Talking. Step by step, he walked behind Hulk, who was lying on the ground. Then bang, scream, one foot stepped on Hulk's back, who was lying on the ground. The strength of this foot slammed Hulk's body. At the same time, Abomination pointed the thorn on his elbow at Hulk. Sudden, da 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 da. A helicopter flew slowly over and stopped on Debate's head and illuminated Debate with a searchlight. This is the helicopter that General Ross has just dispatched. At the moment he held a loudspeaker and shouted at Bronsky, which is also hateful. Bronsky, don't kill Hulk. It's still useful to keep him. You stop. Facing Rose's shout, to shut up. Disgust picked up a large stone 20 or 30 centimeters in diameter and threw it at the helicopter hundreds of meters in the sky. The driver saw this. Immediately it is like controlling a helicopter to dodge. But it was too late. Boom. After the sound, the propeller of the helicopter has been smashed by a stone in Abomination. Originally, He was aiming at the fuselage, but the avoidance of the driving position made him hit the propeller. But the most important thing is, there is no parachute on the helicopter. At the same time, Rose fell directly because of the violent shaking of the helicopter. Bang! Disgust grabbed the falling Rose. But because it is too high. Even if you hate it, grab it. Rose still bleeds heavily. His internal organs are rotten. At the same time, the brains are almost mashed. You. Rose stared in disgust, and wanted to say something. But at the moment's hatred and anger were full. He squeezed his fist sharply. Phuket. After a sound. It's like pinching tomatoes. In addition to the bright red muscles, bones, and other tissues that stick to the hands of abomination. Rose's blood and brain squashed out like juice. Right. It's like getting a foot on toothpaste. It makes no difference anyway. Whoops. Then, disgusted and shook the sticky thing on his hand. Then he continued to look at Hulk at his feet. When he is ready to close it immediately, he will go to Angel again. But at this moment, Hulk, who had been resting, rolled over and hit his disgusting foot with an elbow. The tall hatred was knocked to the ground at once. Hulk saw a chance, immediately turned over and wrestled with disgust on the ground. Boom, gang, bang, the smoke was completely lost. The buildings everywhere were hit by them and collapsed. The place passed as like ruins. At the moment, by moonlight, Aelin waved his wings and was floating under the moon with his vibranium sword. Hulk fought with hatred from afternoon to night. Aelin is also enough to collect, and analyze all the data. Her dark energy communication Luo Wa, Wong, can I do it? If you continue to fight, you may bump into the Angel building all the way. I'm afraid their stupid brains will spread to the Angel building. Luo Wa, who was in the Sky City above New York, smiled when he heard it. It's okay, just play by yourself, just play around. Yes, even the hatred now. He also had no chance of hitting Aelin. Can hatred now knock the earth apart with one kick? It definitely doesn't work, but Alan can. If you add the brand new vibranium long sword in her hand, then the combat power is simply unimaginable. Roar, boom, watching two monsters, one big and one small, tumbling on the ground. Aelin disgusted and said coldly, it's a barbarian. Up to now, still fighting together. Can you smash Thor's axe with one punch or slap the silver wing with one slap? Or unless you can smash the universe with one punch. Otherwise, not only will your fist have poor attack power, but your attack range will be short and ruthless. At the moment, the disgust that was being twisted together heard a cold girl suddenly turned her head and looked up at Aelin above her head. At the moment Alanson wears the vibranium armor embellished with all silver gold wire, and the overall look is almost the same as the original. Her long golden hair was floating in the wind, and the mask she wore on her face looked mysterious. Even the current shield only knows Aelin's earrings to recognize who she is. Carrying a long sword, Aelin didn't bother to even point fingers. It's just that Angel flies as if watching them fight like watching a play in a zoo. Why don't you fight? I haven't watched this animal party. Looked at the hatred and Hulk who stopped fighting. Aelin seemed to be very interested, mocking. And hate and Hulk are also called animal parties by her. During the time I hated observing Aelin, Hulk took the opportunity and slammed his head up and collided with his hateful forehead. Boom. After the sound, Hulk pours back a little softly. And hatred also clutched his head and backed away. Aelin at the moment can't hold back a bit. She stretched out her bare hand to cover her red lips and smiled sideways. Eyes in Aelin. The fight between Abomination and Hulk is very fun. Because you punched me. This fight without any skill in Angel civilization looks like a fight with children. Do not. It's babies fighting. Because of the Angel civilization, even the newly born Angel will have extremely high fighting skills and abilities. So these two monsters look to Aelin. It's really like two little monsters fighting. And it's just a particularly ugly one. The other is mediocre but a bit ugly. At the moment, Hulk was dizzy and shook his head. He looked at Angel behind him, struggling to get up, but he didn't have any energy. But, even so, Hulk still looked at Aelin, and then sat down prostratively and fisted towards Aelin with his right hand and beat the heart of his left chest. This is Aelin's actions when saluting Luo Hua. Aelin frowned. She didn't know how Hulk knew this movement. You know this action Angel has not performed outside. At the moment, bang, bang, bang. The hatred that had been relieved from the gods directly abandoned Hulk and rushed towards Aelin. In his current cognition, then Hulk didn't just hit it casually. Since Angel is in front of you, definitely get Angel first and then clean Hulk. Roar. Seeing the hatred rushing up, Aelin cast a glance at Hulk, then her voice was cold, and the sword pointed at Hulk. Go to the side and lie on your stomach. I'll ask you later. Finished. Aelin's long sword slashed in front of him. As soon as the wings moved, there was only an afterimage left in the same place. Followed by pissed scream. The running abomination stopped slowly when he couldn't find Aelin. He looked around. As a result, I felt a pain in my left hand as soon as I tried to lift my hand. Flutter. After the sound of a heavy object hitting the ground sounded. Disgust lowered his head and raised his hand. The twitching hand on the ground is not his own, who else can it be? And at the moment his broken arm is still flowing like oil, like blood. Aelin hovered over his head and shook his head slightly after seeing this appearance. At the same time she also closed the eye of insight. Sure enough, has the gene collapsed? The black blood seemed to outsiders to match his appearance. But remember, abomination at the moment's black blood was not sprayed. It was dripping out like syrup, extremely viscous. So this is not blood at all. But after the gene collapse, the tissues in his body began to decompose from the smallest level. So when the blood in the hatred body is completely solidified, that's when his life is over. Then he will turn into black dust, that is, atoms dissipate in this universe. It seems that I have never been here. During the period of disgust, Hulk is really like what Aelin said. He actually found a slightly clean place, that is, a shop selling lint puppets, and got in. Then he shrank there. He hugged his knees with his hands, and his face was buried in a pile of velvet dolls. If it weren't for his wounds, green blood was still flowing slowly. People who didn't know thought he was a big green doll with a height of 3 meters. At the moment the city of the sky. Hexy was also watching the battlefield as boringly as Luo Hua, no, the practice field. Sure enough, if there is no potential or energy repair, a creature will extremely overdraw its life in the face of evolution that it can't bear. Like this hatred, he will live less than half an hour. Judging from the blood flowing through hatred, that is, the degree of atomic collapse. Hexy quickly judged when he was going to burp. Yes, Luo Hua nodded. While developing the third-generation angel's body, he looked at his disgusting body. If this is the case for the body that hates it at the moment, then the genetic samples brought back by Aelin may not have much effect. But not necessarily, because from the current characteristics, the loathing gene may have the effect of squeezing the potential to ripen. Okay, so, it is not without any value. The picture returns to Aelin's side. A daze with Hulk because of hatred. Aelin waved his wings and stood on a roof with Heish reminding him of his disgust. Have you reacted well, ugly guy? The hatred reminded by Aelin finally came over. He quickly took his arm and withdrew. But what's the use? What's the difference between taking that little distance under Angel's wings? At the moment, disgust was discovered suddenly. The granulation from his broken arm was actually popping out. And the black blood that was flowing slowly stopped. What is it representing? This means he is self-healing. And ability is very powerful. Definitely, I hate myself for thinking this way. Gia 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 Gia. An unpleasant voice squeezed from the throat of disgust. At the moment, he considers himself a creature with extraordinary potential. After reading it, Aelin shook his head and sighed helplessly. This is just a change made by living creatures in self-defense under the threat of life. The purpose of growing granulation is to keep the gene atoms from collapsing faster. The blood is not left but the performance of the gene's accelerated collapse. I said this before. Seeing Aelin shook his head disappointedly. I hate that she is insulting herself. Roar. Shouted in disgust and anger. He jumped up and rushed towards Aelin on the roof. Aelin turned around lightly as if dancing. Boom. A slap of disgust was photographed from her side. Then only half of the building where Aelin was standing was left. Then the Aelin longsword, which turned in a circle, lifted upwards. An arm that is hardly venting oil will fly with it. Then bang, smashed to the ground. He stumbled back a few steps with disgust with both arms gone. He now has only one pair of legs and 2 half-length elbows. Roar, die to me, Angel. Then, the abomination that was so irritable that he had lost his mind directly rushed and hit Aelin with his head. Same as before, with a move of Aelin's wings, he jumped like an elf playing in nature. At the same time, when she left the ground again, she made up a foot towards the back of her head, which was downward in hatred. Then the unconscious hatred slammed face down into the building. It's like a bowling ball head. Bang, after the sound. For a while, the surrounding area was filled with smoke and dust. Aelin's wings shook sharply. Boom, the surroundings seemed to have just been cleaned in an instant. The dust disappeared instantly, but the distance is like a dust storm, and this is nothing that can be done. Looking at the 5-meter hole in the building in front of me. The loathsome feet were still sticking out of the hole. It's just motionless. Walked in with his legs. Aelin saw abomination lying all over her body, and she seemed to faint. Walk in and take a look. There is a pit on the back of the hatred head. You don't need to think about it to know that Aelin kicked it out. At the moment, although the cerebellum at the back of the head is damaged, but hatred still wrestled with his limbs wanting to get up. If this is a normal creature, the cerebellum at the back of the head was hit so that it was at least vegetative. Because here is the central nervous system. If it is hit by a strong external force, it will be paralyzed. But because he hated that the reason for the strong overdraft of the body, he could still jump twice. The wings waved gently. Aelin hovered over the back of the hatred head. She didn't even want to step on hatred. After all, this product of forced evolution made Angel disgusting. Take out a test tube instrument from the dark plane. Then use the micro wormhole technology to control. In a short while, Aelin collected a sample of the loathing gene. Save it and return to the dark plane. Aelin looked at the loathing lying on the ground still struggling to twitch and walked out for the last time. But just after Aelin went out, still struggling, the disgust breathed black smoke all over his body. The black smoke disappeared immediately like a phantom thing. And as long as the black smoke floats on the body of the corresponding hatred, it slowly disappears. The genes have completely collapsed. Aelin turned around. In this short time, the original hatred position seemed to have never happened. There is nothing left there. From now on, there is nothing left of hatred in this world. Turned around, Aelin opened the Eye of Insight. Then when he found Hulk, he shut down and waved his wings to find him. Came to a doll shop. Looking at these dolls and the Hulk whose wounds have healed inside. Don't tell me, it really looks like an extra large green doll. Although the color is unlucky. Aelin continued to take out another empty instrument from the dark plane. Then he looked at Hulk, who was in the corner with his back to the door. She directly controlled the test tube with the wormhole technique and pierced towards Hulk. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. When Hulk was holding his head, suddenly staring and turning his head. Aelin has received the collected test tube into the dark plane. I saw it was Angel. Hulk, who had been staring at him, suddenly narrowed. It seems to be the function of Banner's subconscious mind. At the moment, Hulk, who was cringing and honest, was like a puppy. But it may also be the reason why Angel is so attractive. The current Hulk simply obeyed. Sit there. Aelin's sword pointed at a clearing. Hulk immediately sat there honestly. Seeing this, Aelin reported using dark energy communications. Wong, this green monster is very good, why is this? At the moment Luo Hua in Sky City smiled. He is not very good, but he is only good when he is in front of Angel. Aelin was a little dazed. It's because Angel's charm is too big. There is this relationship in it. Luo Hua added. But the biggest reason is that Hulk had too much obsession with having a good impression of Angel before the mutation. Just like those sincere believers, even if it is no longer human, its soul still believes in Angel. Alan understands. It turned out that Hulk, the monster in front of him, believed in Angel before he mutated. So even if it becomes like this now, both Banner and Hulk are the same. Angel equals faith, then obedient is over. After the communication is complete. Aelin looked at Hulk who was sitting like a good baby and waved. Then where to go? I suggest you better go to the wild, but don't come back and destroy the city, otherwise. Aelin flicked his sword. The cold light on the surface made Hulk shrink sharply. Then he nodded frantically. Aelin nodded in satisfaction. Then he took the long sword back to the dark plane and walked out of the doll shop. She flapped her wings and flew quickly on her way home. After seeing Aelin go, Hulk also bent down and crawled out of the doll shop. Then he accidentally knocked the door frame with his head. Immediately turned his head and stroked him back. Then, Hulk looked towards the distant natural field. He ran wildly twice and jumped into the sea and disappeared. A few hours later, but the fire brigade and police slowly approached Harlem Avenue. Several kilometers of buildings were destroyed here. The whole scene was a mess. Ruins, broken buildings, potholes on the ground, burning cars, debris everywhere, broken facades, and thick dust covering up everywhere. My God, many of them said in surprise. What did those two monsters do? Did aliens invade? How can there be such a big damage? The city several kilometers around Harlem was completely destroyed. There are almost all ruins here. There are not many good buildings. The amount of loss was at least tens of billions of meters of gold. What did those monsters do? Then, major journalists and the military, including private individuals, are adjusting their surveillance video. But the military must be the clearest investigator. They can directly adjust the videos of major intersections and key locations. But when they watched the complete video, none of them opened their mouths unsurprisingly. Monster, angel, oh my God, quickly organize all these videos and upload them to the internet. At the same time, in the basement studio of a Seaview villa, Jarvis reminded Tony, who had also recently invaded all surveillance in New York, said, "Sir, you seem to have missed a wonderful opportunity to watch the game." Ah, Tony sighed. Then he turned his head and looked at the Mark 6 new energy armor, which was only half assembled next to it. What can I do? Can I go without wearing a battle armor? I guess it will be ugly to die. At this time, Pepper's shout came from above the studio. Tony, you're still up to sleep. What time are you going to get through? Okay, I'm here, can you stop shouting? I hope you can be gentle. With that, Tony got up from the ground. Then walked out of this studio. At the moment's shield, Fury, Hill, Phil Coulson, Natasha Romanoff, Hawkeye and others all gathered around a large screen. And Fury pointed to the picture broadcast directly from the satellite and said angrily, "Why doesn't the information center have any news about this black monster? Where did it come from? How was it born? Why did it appear on the boulevard in Harlem? Our shield spends so much money on the intelligence center every year. What do they do for food?" As Fury said in an angry voice. Several agents present were silent. Although they are not in the intelligence center, they have something to do with them as long as they are found to be negligent. So let alone just hate the violent fight with Hulk for so long. The entire Harlem Avenue was beaten in a mess. A few kilometers around are all in ruins. It's basically equivalent to rebuilding. I think Mr. President will call you later, and then I will meet him overnight. Fury stuck in his waist and said while exasperating. Such a big monster broke out in New York, but we didn't have any news before then. This time, if it wasn't for Angel to come down and put the biggest trial, and then suppress Hulk, what can we do? Yes, if it's not Angel, Abomination can wash the whole of New York before the gene collapses completely. Yes, Chief Fury. Phil Coulson looked at the ruins honestly next to him. If it weren't for Angel, the whole of New York would have been affected instead of the current several kilometers. A few kilometers is no small Phil Coulson agent. Hill looked at Phil Coulson and reminded, at least tens of billions of meters of gold have been lost in these few kilometers. Really, this is a very important avenue in New York. The people around are rich and many middle-class people don't say it. The future impact alone may be serious. I know, Phil Coulson nodded. But without Angel's trial, this area could be expanded by more than 10 times. More than 10 times. Not to mention it, if this 28-place circle is expanded tenfold, there is a more precious area around it. If this is destroyed together, Fury couldn't help shrinking his head at the thought of this. If this destroys his position together, it is estimated that he will also be dropped. Ah, Fury sighed in his heart. Then I looked at Phil Coulson and continued to ask, how about the hammer in Mexico? I heard Fury talk about it. Phil Coulson took out a file bag from his suit and opened it on the desk. There are not only data reports of those scientific researchers. There are various other sorted out literature analysis and so on. Phil Coulson took out one of the pictures and said, "This is a hammer, and it seems to be a bit higher level. I think it's better to use high-tech and retro." Hawkeye suggested next to him. "The hammer that feels high-tech and retro is owned by the man who says he is Thor." At this time, Phil Coulson took out another photo of Thor and said, "His name is Thor and he belongs to the Norse gods. He said that his father is Odin, and he once discussed state affairs with Luo Wa, the king of Angel. But I don't know about the others." Thor said he was kicked out after only a little introduction, and one thing his father told him personally recently. Then he made some mistakes, and then he was deprived of his powers by his father Odin and thrown on the earth. After Phil Coulson's introduction, everyone squeezed their chins and thought, "It sounds true, but is it really true? It is not necessarily fake. Because Angel came out, what is the difference between the Norse gods? If you want to prove it, it just depends on whether Angel knows Thor. But they can't take the initiative to ask. Can only wait for the opportunity." "Where is Thor now?" Natasha Romanoff asked. Phil Coulson glanced at Natasha Romanoff. "He is now arranged by me in a hotel on the streets of New York. I asked him to stay in the room and wait for my news." "Are you sure he can't wait to do anything stressful?" Natasha Romanoff asked. "No," Phil Coulson said confidently. "I arranged a dozen agents to watch him, and all of them carried electric shock devices. These are all agents who have experienced many battles. If Thor dares to mess around, I believe he will be late and lose money." Hearing Phil Coulson's arrangement, everyone nodded. "It's really good, but I don't know why there is always something wrong. Is it uneasy? Impossible. With more than a dozen agents, can Thor do it all?" At this time, diddy-diddy, suddenly, there was a rapid sound from Fury's satellite phone. "This means something is urgent." Fury quickly answered the phone. Then, under the gaze of all the agents, his expression collapsed. "Wait until the satellite phone is hung up." Fury looked at the agents and sighed. "Fortunately in misfortune, it's just that Mr. President told me to meet." That is indeed a blessing in misfortune. If other things are so urgent, it is a big deal. But it's just Fury going to see the president. Forehead. What the agents think is, it doesn't matter if I go anyway. Take the windbreaker, put on the windbreaker, put your hands in your pockets. The silhouettes of Fury at the moment who walked out of the office were a little bleak. "Because I must be scolded if I go. ... At the same time. In the Sky City above the Angel Building 10,000 meters above the sky. Sitting on the throne, Luo Wa was playing with the two genetic samples in his hands. The Hulks can be released first, and the abomination should be recorded first. After speaking, he floated the test tube to Hexy. Hexy nodded and put it away. "The one you hate can be kept for a while. But as soon as the lid is opened, it will break down into atoms and disappear." "And Aelin, how does it feel to move your body?" Aelin stood by, put away the sword, and smiled on the cheek that had removed the mask earlier. "It's a bit more fun than the Steel Soldier. The fight between the two big guys was really a laugh. It's like a turn-based system, you must attack at the same time, and then you don't get ahead." Alan said this. Hexy followed and smiled. In Angel's eyes, the fight between these two big guys is really like playing video games. Not only is there no threat, it's so funny. Then, Luo Wa waved. In the field of vision of the three people, a panel of energy projection was spread out. The above is a video of at the moment that has been circulated on the internet and in reality. It is obvious. Is hatred the point of this incident? No. What about Hulk? Nor is it. Angel is the focus of this discussion. Last time, that was the Steel Soldier's time, Aelin was far away from any shooting angle and distance. So what everyone sees is a very vague figure. But this time is different. This time because it was on the street. Coupled with the professional camera, I captured Aelin very clearly. It's just that Aelin is wearing an armor and a mask. Everyone just knows that Angel in Angel's civilization turned out to be so heroic and graceful. But that's enough. Seeing such a hot discussion about Angel on the internet, Luo Wa already felt that the energy of faith in his body was soaring again. Isn't that? Can both Kesha and Liangbing come out? Thinking of this, Luo Wa turned his head and looked at Hexy standing next to her feet. And Hexy also looked at Luo Wa at the same time with a heart. But it seems she understands something. Suddenly, Hexy puffed up his cheeks. Do not ask. Asking is angry. Looking back, Luo Hua continued to arrange the additions. Now that the vibranium mining in Island has been completed, the remaining vibranium resources are placed in the warehouse. Then Sky City now has some technologies that Hexy can't be busy with. You will develop them. When the time comes, hello, she will meet up, and I will look for you again if there is a new task. Yes, Aelin nodded and accepted the task. Aelin knew that his main ability was combat. So I can't take over major R&D projects, because that will not only be distracted, but also have tasks from time to time. What should I do? So some easy, not rushed research and development can be handed to Aelin when she is okay. That wouldn't make Aelin usually bored. As for Hexy, Luo Hua looked at Hexy. You continue to be responsible for the development of other modules in Sky City. If there is a special need to jump in the technology research and development, I will find you. Yes, Hexy nodded and received the order. Luo Hua's own words. He will continue to develop the third generation of Angel's body. And with this skyrocketing belief energy, he can still research and develop faster. After all, the effect of the third generation Angel's body may be like that. But if you want to design it, you need a complete, reasonable, and planning series of detailed settings. In the original Angel civilization, it took tens of thousands of years from the second generation Angel's body to the third generation Angel's body. It is estimated that it will only take a few days to get to Luo Hua. If these two speeds are compared, this shows that Luo Hua is against the sky. After the end, Luo Hua flew down from his throne. Then he turned around and walked into the back courtyard. Patter, patter, patter. Wait until Aelin goes out. The sound of footsteps in high heels sounded behind Luo Hua. Hexy followed. Turning around and sitting in the pavilion, Luo Hua glanced at Hexy while picking up the teacup on the table. Why, Wang, didn't you say that we will still be the same even if Keisha and Liangbing come in the future? Finished. Hexy saw Luo Hua want to pour the tea by herself, so she hurried up to help Luo Hua pour it. Put down the teapot. Luo Hua looked at Hexy who was pouring tea for herself and said helplessly, here comes every day. Yeah, Hexy raised her pretty face proudly. The charming eyes looked at the teacup pouring tea earnestly at the moment. And the cherry-like red lips lifted up and down. It doesn't come every day, I thank you. I won't come when the research reaches the critical moment. But usually we can multitask, why don't we just chat? Finished. Hexy handed Luo Hua the teacup with his tea. Luo Hua took a sip after taking it. Really, my shoulder was almost all your saliva last time. Exclamation mark question mark. Hexy was taken aback. He didn't move the first show quickly, but glanced at Luo Hua's shoulder blindly. But after thinking of this exquisite costume, it will not stick to any dust. Hexy's cheeks suddenly became a little rosy. She took her teacup and walked to sit down next to Luo Hua, trying to hide from him. But when I remembered that Keisha and Liangbing would be out in 2 or 3 days at most. Hexy clenched his fist slightly and decided to start with the wall. Which angel would not have a good impression on his own king? What has been confirmed is, whether it is the past or the present or the future, all angels will have a good impression of Luo Hua, which is a certain fact. And it's not low. So, Hexy, who had decided, turned his head and looked at Luo Hua's cheek gently with his extremely beautiful azure blue eyes, and asked gently. I recently learned about a skill called ear picking and took the time to learn it. Wang, do you want to try? Picking ears, it seems to be the kind of. In short, it's a very comfortable thing. But obviously Angel's body no longer produces dirt. So I want to see earwax definitely not. Do you have tools? Luo Hua was quite puzzled. This thing requires a lot of tools. Hexy did not answer. Instead, he waved his hand and laid a complete set of tools neatly on the table. The materials of the work. Others shed tears when they see it. He looked at Hexy, who was already prepared and directly indicated by action. Luo Hua has nothing to say. Well, I'll test it out as your first guinea pig. Hexy was overjoyed when he heard that Luo Hua was willing to try. She sat back and showed her thighs more. Then he pulled the skirt up again. Finally, Hexy patted his icy muscle and slender thigh. Meaning, just lie down on your side. and many more. It's not right. Isn't Kyer that Luo Hua can do it by himself? Lying down is not called Kyer. Hexie seemed to know Luo Hua's meaning and explained. Sitting because there is earwax, I am afraid it will fall into the ears. But our angel doesn't have it, so lying on your side will be more relaxing. Hexie was right. Luo Hua nodded suspiciously. Then he leaned his head on Hexie's cool legs. The back of his head is facing Hexie. Luo Hua closed his eyes first. Then, a fluffy thing stuck into Luo Hua's ear. A comfortable and itchy sensation swept through his brain in an instant. Do not say the other. It's really comfortable. He was a bit nervous when he was finishing the 3rd-generation angel's body technology, and he was relieved instantly. I do not know how long it has been. He didn't react until Hexie spoke again. Wong, this side is ready, do you want to change the side? Luo Hua made a nasal sound. Then he sat up with sleepy eyes. But it hasn't waited for him to change places. Hexie stood up and went to Luo Hua's other side. She reached out and gently held both sides of Luo Hua's head. Then he gently placed his head on her legs while supporting it. At the moment Luo Hua's face was facing Hexie's belly. The long gasps that he was about to fall asleep blew on Hexie's belly. Hexie's cheeks are slightly red. But seeing Luo Hua look like this, Hexie knew that he had succeeded. This physical contact can be here. After that, you can do all the jokes of shaking hands, squeezing your arms, and pounding your shoulders. Hexie quickly resolved the strangeness between the two of them. This is her plan. Before Keisha and Liangbing were born, they could run as far in advance as they could. This is called shooting in advance, or picking up and running away. Even if Kesha and Liangbing were born, they could only sigh after knowing them. High. It is really high. At the moment Luo Hua was drowsy against Hexie's belly. Coupled with the gentle brush in the ears. Unconsciously, Luo Hua fell asleep on Hexie's long legs. Feeling the long roar on her belly, Hexie knew that her king was asleep. Gently take the tools out and put them back on the table for storage. Hexie stretched out his jade hand and followed Luo Hua's hair like a stroke. The sky blue eyes that bowed his head were full of him. As if time has been immersed in general. At the moment. As long as the creatures in this environment will feel the rapid passing of time. Because the best time always makes you forget the existence of time. Early the next morning, inside a hotel in New York. Thor sat on the bed watching TV boredly. There is everything here. There is nothing missing. Watching TV was also taught by an outside agent just now. Next channel, next channel, next. I don't know how many of them have been flipped continuously. Thor doesn't think it looks good at all. This TV seems to have been specially tuned by the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. All the information in it is basically useless. At most, it is entertaining or learning about modern knowledge. Thor threw the remote control on the bed irritably. Then he rubbed his hair and walked to the window to look at the scenery outside. At this time, slap, scream, a poster was blown down from the sky and slapped on his face. Thor took the poster down even more irritably. As soon as he wanted to roll the poster into a ball and throw it away, Thor was stunned looking at the content on it. Heaven descends from heaven, and it was Angel who suppressed the riots on Harlem Avenue yesterday. Closing curly bracket. They are beautiful, they are handsome, they bring us safety but do not ask for it. Closing curly bracket. Come join the team of Faith Angel, we have only one purpose. Closing curly bracket. That is to believe in Angel. Closing curly bracket. This is a team organized entirely by the private sector. Their propagandists believe in Angel's posters. And what was printed on it were all the pictures of Alan yesterday. But Thor was a little bit close at that time, so he hadn't arrived in New York yet. Look at the date on the poster. Thor realized that this turned out to be what happened yesterday. And Angel appeared yesterday not far from where he is now. Angel is nearby. Thor quickly turned around and ran to the door. He bang, boom, boom, continuous knocking on the door. The agent opened the door. Thor saw the bulging stuff in the agent's suit and knew it wouldn't be a tissue. I want to go out. Angel is near here, I will find it if I look for it. The two agents at the door apologized. Sorry Mr. Thor, the mission that Chief Phil Coulson gave us is to watch you and prevent you from getting out of them in any way. He said you live here first, and they will wait for the opportunity to contact Angel before coming to prove your identity. Thor thought for a while, but couldn't find another reason. He stared deeply into the eyes of the two agents and asked, "Is there no other way?" The two agents saw Thor's expressive eyes slowly reaching into the suit. "Yes, Mr. Thor, so I suggest you go back first." Boom. The words are not over yet. Thor knocked over an agent in an instant. At first sight, another agent was too late to take out the electric shock device. "I can only shout in the headset now. The target wants to escape here. Come and support." Then, a group of black agents rushed forward. They fought Thor with each other. Bang, slap. The sound of smashing is everywhere. After a while, a long-haired man with a swollen nose and limping walked out of the hotel. And in the hotel, there are dozens of black agents lying down. After dozens of minutes, Phil Coulson and Hill drove here. Seeing that the target has escaped, there are more than a dozen Agent Hill on the ground looking at Phil Coulson and pursing their lips. "Is this what you say is the battle tested?" Phil Coulson saw this and said silently, "They have experienced a lot of battles." But, Phil Coulson looked at Thor's departure direction. Maybe that person has gone through 1,000 battles, and maybe even if he's 1,000 battles. Hill looked at Thor leaving that direction in disbelief. Chasing it? No need to chase. At the moment Fury happened to be nearby, so he followed. He looked at the location on the phone and said confidently, "Mr. Thor looks very purposeful, I really want to see what he can do." At the moment Thor, who had already ran out, walked down the street a little confused. There is a lot of traffic here, a mixed bag. There are all kinds of people who work, go shopping, and travel. There are also all kinds of clothes that dazzled Thor. Plus that various things, some he can understand, some he can't guess what it is. At this time, Diaresis, "Mister, you seem to need help, do you need to accept some potion from Angel's admirers?" Quote. A girl who seemed to be only 14 years old happened to pass by Thor's side. There are two white cuz wings hanging behind her. There is also a small frame in his hand. Inside is actually a potion for applying wounds. Thor touched his cheek radioactively. A piece of skin was torn from the punched wound there, so it was quite painful. Suddenly he squatted down in embarrassment. Okay, thank you." The little girl saw Thor agree. She happily rubbed Thor with the red trauma potion. "No thanks, Angel is helping us selflessly, and we have to help others too." When the value of interest is not at the same level. Angel's help is indeed like a selfless dedication. But how is it possible? Luo Hua is not idle and doing nothing to let Angel help people every day. Only those who have the value of faith will. After a while, Thor, grinning as he was rubbed by the little girl, finally heard her say, "Okay." Suddenly he stood up and his expression eased. But suddenly, Thor seemed to remember something. He squatted down again and asked the little girl in the softest voice as possible. "I want to believe in Angel, where does Angel live?" The little girl looked at Thor suspiciously. There are still people who don't know where Angel is. But she was still helpful and raised her finger to the Angel building. "It's where the angels live, but no one is allowed to approach it. I heard that someone who was too excited wanted to go directly, but was caught by a group of people in black clothes." Man in black clothes. Isn't that the SHIELD agent? Thor took a look at the Angel building. Suddenly gave up the idea that I just wanted to directly break into. It seems, gotta outsmart, although he can't think of any good ideas. Thank you for telling me that I have left beforehand. Say goodbye to the little girl. Thor ran to the river alone across the sea. It is a few kilometers away from the Angel building. But this film cuts off the idea of going directly. And I heard that Angel didn't come out. What should I do then? One night passed Thor's trip on the lawn by the river. The next morning, Asgard at the moment, Loki is already in charge of Asgard in name. He was sitting on the throne with the gun of eternity in his hand. At the same time he has control of the destroyer. At the moment, he looked at the earth and fell asleep on the lawn, Thor determined to mutter. "My brother, since there are unstable factors like Angel, it will affect you to come back and grab the throne with me. Then I have no choice but to make it impossible for you to rob me. Destroyer, go." Loki waved his hand. The destroyer in the Asgard treasure room walked out directly to New York on the Earth alone. Another big battle is about to begin. The next morning, the destroyer is about to set off. And in the city of the sky, Luo Hua is developing the last project of the third-generation angel's body. That is to organize and list all the settings that have been understood. Then it is created through the system. Wave your hand to open the energy light screen. Luo Hua looked at the light screen and used the mind control list to slide up and down and open other pages. Don't tell me. With such a panoramic computer, it basically provides convenience to many degrees. Then, Luo Hua started the creation of the system after finally finishing all the data. The third-generation angel's body is the most powerful body known to the angel civilization except for the divine body. From then on, unless it is hit by the gamma rays condensed by the radiation effect when a total of thousands of nuclear bombs explode, or hit by a weapon that decomposes genes, otherwise it won't be harmed at any level. At the same time, even if it is a magical attack or a mental attack, there is no difference from the physical level. Definitely, because of its strong physical fitness, it also needs to consume terrifying energy to supplement it. Ding! Angel civilization technology set successfully. The third-generation angel's body. Before being attacked by gamma-ray bursts and genetic weapons, the third-generation angel is enough to cross the universe physically. Under physical, magical, and spiritual attacks, unless you receive an attack that can destroy the planet, you will not be seriously injured or even killed. After reading the technology that has been set up, even Luo Hua couldn't help but admire the power of the third-generation angel's body. What is physical sanctification? The third-generation angel's body is only a little short of that goal. The only thing left is the immortality. Mind to open the system panel. Angel Civilization Creation System. Angel. Luo Hua, King of Angel, Hexi, Alan. Technology. First-generation angel's body, second-generation angel body, third-generation angel's body, angel wings, sky city, belief energy conversion, eye of insight, micro-wormhole transportation technology, dark energy communication technology, all department of energy projection technology, dark computer, vibranium armor. Roar! Luo Hua let out a sigh of relief. Compared with the original technology, this is not even a little bit stronger. So next, it's time to load this technology. Load the third-generation angel's body. Dong Wang. The moment of decision under Luo Hua. A muffled voice came from his body. Then, a dazzling light immediately enveloped Luo Hua. He is the host of angel civilization. So whenever Luo Hua upgrades, the upgrade is the biggest. And all angels' energy communication will be supplied from him in the future. So Luo Hua can also control angels' technology content at will. For example, an angel is now the third-generation angel. Luo Hua can change her to the second generation on the spot. Or even cancel the technology directly. If you cancel the wings, you will lose your wings, and if you cancel the eye of insight, you will lose the eye of insight. This is his right as the king of angel. At this time, accompanied by the sound of pattering footsteps, Hexi came to the courtyard gate. As soon as she came in, she saw Luo Hua at the moment surrounded by light. So I chose to stand quietly outside the door and wait. After a while, Luo Hua upgrade completed. Then he saw Hexi. Come in. Hexi walked in with long legs. She asked as she walked, is the third-generation angel's body coming out? Yes. Luo Hua nodded, just about to get the teapot. Hexi quickly snatched it away and poured it on himself. Luo Hua looked at Hexi's profile and said, I'll try upgrading for you first. Ah. Hexi was surprised and said, I don't need it, you should upgrade Alan. Alan will use it all when he goes out to perform tasks. And I just need to study. The second-generation angel's body has passed very well. Luo Hua nodded, and immediately blocked Hexi's mouth in the next moment. Then don't talk, feel for yourself. Upgrade the third-generation angel's body to Hexi. Angel Hexi. The third generation of angel's body, angel's wings, eyes of insight, wormhole transportation technology, dark energy communication technology, full energy projection technology, dark computer, vibranium armor. For an instant, Hexi, who was about to speak, was stared at the sudden upgrade. She closed her eyes. After a while, open again slowly. The amount of calculation has increased so much. What surprised Hexi just now? The original second-generation angel's body plus the dark matter computer is already very complex. But I didn't expect that the third generation angel's body plus the dark matter computer would simply bloom on top. The computational power has more than doubled geometrically. This is equivalent to upgrading directly from the server to the supercomputer. At this time, there was a patter of fast footsteps. Soon Alan came here to report. Wong, a black armor over 2 meters high, suddenly came down on Central Avenue in New York City. He is now standing on the most prosperous and most populous Central Avenue and is slowly walking towards us. After Luo Hua heard it, he opened his eyes of insight and took a look. At the moment is on the avenue in downtown New York. Isn't that the destroyer? It is also certain that it appears directly on the most densely populated avenue in the center of New York. You don't see who is behind controlling him. It's Loki who wants to get the attention of the whole world. At this time, just when everyone hides from a distance to observe the destroyer, Loki directly controlled the destroyer to shoot out a giant wave of particle light. This attack method is the same as Tony's armored hand cannon. But the difference is that the destroyer's attack power is too strong. Just Tony's hand cannon, it is simply the difference between anti-aircraft guns and mosquitoes. Rumble. At the same time, the building hit by the energy wave was directly destroyed. Then, Loki felt everyone's attention. He was even more excited to shoot energy waves around. Boom, boom, boom. The destroyer banged as he walked. He banged all the way and then walked towards Thor. If you don't get rid of Thor, then he has the opportunity to use Angel to come back and compete with himself for the throne. But Angel can't solve it again. So, Thor became his only choice. The picture returns to Luo Hua here. After seeing this, Alan turned around and asked Luo Hua, Wong, he has had a great influence. Should I expand it later or suppress him now? No hurry. Luo Hua waved his hand and called up 2 energy panels to the 2 women's eyes. This is information about him. Strictly speaking, he is just an armor and has no consciousness. And the one who is controlling him is Thor's cousin, Loki. This time, the 2 women who read all the information immediately knew the cause and effect. But this also means that Thor is near the Angel building. Alan opens the Eye of Insight. Immediately search for a person called Thor. Alan found him the next moment after opening. At the moment Thor was just woken up by the bombing on the lawn by the river. He quickly got up from the lawn and looked at the city behind him. At this time, suddenly a beam of energy flew from his head. Thor immediately got down, but the direction in which the energy wave extends. The special one is the Angel building. Now even Loki in Asgard frowned. If this blasts the Angel building, what should I do? But the next moment, a pair of silver wings that pierced the sky suddenly appeared in the path of the energy wave. I saw a ray of cold light flashing across the sky and the sea. That energy wave was cut in half directly in the shooting path. At the moment Sky City. Wong, let me tear him down. Seeing this, Alan immediately stepped forward in anger and begged. No matter how the world is going, even if Angel lives in the Sky City. But the Angel building still has the memory of the first 3 angels who lived for a while. What's more, this is Angel's possession. You dare to bang. Hearing Alan's request, Luo Hua checked Alan's panel. Can't load the 3rd generation Angel's body yet. Alan, now you need to work hard again. You can't load the 3rd generation Angel's body. Suddenly, Alan's atmosphere took a halt. Wong. You are too fast. She really didn't expect it. This 2nd generation Angel's body has only been used for a few days. In a few days, Luo Hua told her that the 3rd generation had come out. When can the 3rd generation Angel's body be researched so casually? Even if Alan's ability is the mainstay of Angel civilization, Angel can't keep up with Luo Hua's research and development speed. I'm afraid I can keep up. There are only 3 kings like Hexi. Seeing Alan's somewhat lost look, Hexi comforted her and said, it's okay, the 3rd generation is here. You can load it as fast as you can to catch up as hard as you can. Yeah, Alan nodded, determined to grow as soon as possible. But then again, seeing that the crisis in the Angel building was resolved by Luo Hua's wing blade weapon. But apparently the destroyer also knew that this building could not be beaten. So choose to bombard other cities. It was just an angry blow after he found Thor. But this does not mean that Luo Hua is so good at talking. This can be straightforward. Alan, you are waiting in the sky. Wait until Thor rushes up and then raise this incident to a higher level. At that time you can fight against that armor to your heart's content. He should make you enjoyable. And don't keep your hands, remember to take down that armor for me. Since Loki is willing to let this destroyer down, then he will be mine. To know, the destroyer is made of Asgard's finest Ulu metal. And Ulu metal is the same metal as Mjolnir. They are all produced by the dead Perseverance core. A persistent kernel is only as big as Mjolnir. So you can see the quality of the destroyer. If the destroyer is taken down and brought back, so as long as it is built, its value can be higher than Mjolnir. So, want to go back to the artifact on my site. Dreaming. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.